Slow Blacksmith Life in Another World. Volume 3 Elven Sword. Chapter 65, The New Usual. Thus, from today onwards, Diana becomes part of our family too. They applauded when I declared that after we returned from the capital. The two, Samia and Reich, did it, and that would complete everyone. I was relieved because there seems to be no objection. I'll be in your care again from today on. I'm Diana Earl. Please treat me well. Nice to meet you, Diana. Nice to meet you, Diana-san. Diana and the other two exchanged greetings. They lived together until the day before yesterday, so there is no awkwardness between them. However, Reich and Diana had an interesting conversation. Hey, did it work? Yes, it was exactly as what Reich had said. HN. Hey, what are you talking? It's a girl's secret. Right, Diana-san. Yeah. Diana appears to get along well with Reich before I knew it. It's a good thing, but I felt a little left out. Oh, that's right. Diana, just a minute. I called Diana, go back to my room, take what I want out of the cupboard, and go back to the living room. I'm giving this one to you. It's my custom-made knife. Each of us has one for self-defense. It's like a proof of being one of the family. Diana receives the knife I gave her with glittering eyes. She pulled it out of the sheath and stared at the blade. As you can't see from its appearance, it's pretty sharp, so handle it with care. I understand. It's very beautiful. Right. That knife is one of the best masterpieces of Boss. For some reason, Reich is sticking out her chest and boasts about it. Seeing that, Samia looked dumbfounded, then she starts laughing. Diana's smiling face was also added to such usual. This appears to be very satisfying for me. I then prepared today's dinner. Dried meat cooked with wine, unfermented bread, root vegetable soup and wine. It's a feast to celebrate Diana becoming part of our family. As expected, the meal made by Izu is the most delicious. Samia says with deep emotion. Is that so? Yes. I cooked our meals while you are away, but I never surpassed the taste of Boss cooking. I also cooked at the workshop at home, you see. Diana looked away. She herself probably never cooked once. Then, since I'm back, let's all celebrate. Yeah, we can't particularly feel it with this meal. Reich giggles. So everyone laughed, and the conversation regarding the food we ate during the dinner party at Earl House was opened up. The next day, after finishing my morning routine of fetching water and other things, I started the conversation during our breakfast. Is there a week's worth of general models in stock? Yes. We were still in production even when Boss is not here. In that case, the quantity for wholesale should be enough then. We helped too, so there's a good amount in the workplace, you know. Good. Then, let's make a new room from today. It's for Diana. Will that be okay? It was Diana who asked. There's no good thing or bad thing since we're family. Besides, as a family, isn't it better to have the same room? Thank you. You are welcome. Diana will have to help us too, though. Of course, that's a given. In this way, the schedule for the next week was decided. We frequently secured some timber, so we have accumulated quite a few. We can't afford to make 2 more rooms with it. To put it the other way around, if we make 2 rooms, the timber will run out. So I first cut down some trees around the house with the axe to secure new timber. I've cut a few, so I feel that the garden has become a little wider. I have to get rid of the stumps so that new trees can grow. While I was cutting trees, the three of them were working on leveling the new room and staking the foundation. Reich has done it before, and all three of them are now much faster, probably because they are stronger than ordinary people. However, there is one point I'm concerned about. Why are you working for 2 rooms, anyway? Yes, no matter how I look at it, the work is for 2 rooms. Our purpose this time is to secure a room for Diana, so 1 room should be enough. Because it's Izu anyway, the family will surely grow again. No, that's... I tried to refute, but my words got stuck in my tongue. In the first place, Samia, Reich, and Diana's arrival here is not planned. In that case, it is quite possible that something unexpected will happen and the number of the family will increase. It is indeed better to make 2 rooms now rather than being rushed in adding more at that time. It certainly makes sense. All right, we can make use of it as storage room while it's not yet occupied. When I acknowledged it, Samia just sighed and went back to work. Then for 5 days, we spent time working on the room expansion. I get up early in the morning and finish my daily routine. We then work on creating the room. After we had our lunch, we work from noon and I would train with Diana before dinner. Then it's time to go to bed after having dinner. After spending 5 days, the work on the room expansion went smoothly. And probably because we had done it before, it was almost completed by the 5th day. The former end of the corridor was removed, and the corridor extends further from there. 2 rooms that look similar to Samia and Reich's room are now there. However, there are no doors attached at the entrance of the rooms yet and there are no furnitures placed there too. We did it. That's right. Diana didn't participate at the previous time, so she seems to be deeply moved. Tomorrow we'll put the door and the bed and that's it. The day after tomorrow, we'll go to Camilo's shop to wholesale our products. Diana will come too, right? Yes, of course. It's a family business, right? Yup. Well, that's because I'm a blacksmith, you see. Though I have a beastman, dwarf, and even the young lady of the Count's family with me, still I'm just a stubborn old man running a smithy. You're a weird blacksmith. Diana giggles as she said that. Well, I can't deny that at all. I smiled and replied back. This is also one of the new usual scenes that have been added. Chapter 66, Additional Family and an Increase to Everyday. The next day. After cutting out the materials for the bed and door, we started assembling it. I made the hinges and nails last time so that saved a lot of time. Being prepared means less things to worry. I'll leave the bed to Samia and Reich, and Diana and I will work on the door. It's the door of her room so she has to put in some effort. As expected, since Diana has never done some carpentry, she does the work while I'm teaching her what to do. It would be a problem if the frame was misshapen and the door wouldn't fit, so I did that part but Diana did most of the rest. Perhaps because she was swinging her sword regularly, she was quite good at it even if it's the first time she uses a hammer. This is somewhat fun too, huh? If you're silently doing it by yourself, you may get tired in the middle of the work. However, isn't it nice for everyone to make things like this? That's right. I really took a liking to this. Sometimes there may be some work like this, can you do it? Of course. If I make a fuss at just this level, I would not have come here in the first place. Diana laughs as she said that. Well, that's for sure. Enticed by her laughter, I also laughed. And as for the bed, since the 2 people who worked on it already made one before, they finished it before we were done on the door. Oh, please carry it inside. Okay. Shall we place it in front of the room? Samia asks Diana. Yes, that's fine. All right. Let's go, Reich. Okay. Then Samia, can you hold it there? Because Samia is a beastman and Reich is a dwarf, they have a considerable power. They then easily lifted the bed and carried it in. Well then, let's finish the door too. Yeah. Then after some time, the door was completed. It's pretty good. It turned out good. Is that so? Yeah. It's quite difficult to hit the board compactly, you see. I'm glad. I was thinking what to do if you said it was no good. With me watching, there's no way that you would make such mistake, you know. Well, that's indeed right. Worry not, it's not flattery when I said it's pretty good. Let's go and install it. Diana is not as strong as Samia, but she still has some power. Diana and I carried the door, then I installed it. The doors were installed immediately, and together with the bed that had been brought in earlier, Diana's room is now completed. From today, this is Diana's room. I think it's quite small, unlike the one in your residence though. It's okay, I'm fine with this. I learn once I come here that it's not necessary to have a wider room. I see. Diana tries to get used to this life as fast as she could. She got accustomed to this to some extent when she came before, but she was supposed to be a guest of some sort at that time. I'm grateful for her doing this. With this we are finally a family, right? Reich smiled at Diana. Yeah. Then once more, I'll be in your care, Reich. Samia too, once again please treat me well. Okay. Well, I will guarantee that the meal is always delicious. Samia was proud saying that, but the one to cook will be me, I suppose. Oh well, it's fine if she likes the food I make. After that, Diana's luggage was brought in from the guest room, and with this, Diana's room is finally completed. The next day, we went to Camilo's shop to wholesale the goods. Diana couldn't go to the town before, so this is the first time for us four to go there. Reich and I pull the cart while Samia and Diana are the ones on the lookout around the area. Our pace is the same as before. Sometimes grass rabbits and other small animals appear, so Diana gets high-spirited. Well, that's because they look cute. I hope that doesn't hold her back when we eat them next time though. We then arrived at the main road with one break on the way. How is it? I think there's none this time. I don't sense anything, so I think there's nothing in particular either. How about you, Diana? I think so too. Just in case, we are checking the surroundings before we go out from the forest to the main road. There seems to be nothing this time as well. Well, shall we get going then? We pulled the cart and go down the road. It's the road where we have come and go many times, but today Diana is with us. That alone makes me feel fresh. The guards in that town are enthusiastic about their work, though it doesn't mean we don't have to be vigilant at all, but the fear of bandits is quite low. It would be nice if there was enough manpower now that Marius was gone, but I don't plan to do this on his instead this time. Since I want to do things that I can do as much as possible. As expected, we arrived at the city without any problems. Since the guards on duty are not a colleague of Marius, I tried to pass by with only a slight bow. That's when a guard on duty called out. Hey, your companions increase by 1. He did well remembering me despite how many people pass here each day. Well, yes. Aren't you a popular one? I'm envious of you, Mr. Lady Killer. No, that's not really the case. Can you let me take a look at the eyes and wrists of the newcomer lady for a while? All right. The guard checks Diana's eyes and wrists. Sorry for the trouble. A child who was forcibly brought as a slave or by kidnapping can't be noticed by looking at the eyes and wrists. Though it's a secret how and what to look at the eyes and wrists. Anyways, thank you for your cooperation. You can't go now. Thanks. The four of us slightly nod and enter the city. If I observe various people, I'll probably learn how to tell that too. It's not a skill that I'm happy to learn about, but I'm sure that person must have seen his fair share of hardship until now. We head straight to Camilo's store as usual. After parking the cart in the warehouse, we went upstairs. The salesman and the head clerk already know us and we are immediately guided to the business meeting room. However, I feel that the number of warehouse and clerical staffs here increased. Without waiting that long, Camilo entered inside the business meeting room too. Hey there. I greet him casually. Camilo found Diana and said, Hey. Oh yeah, Diana O'Hausen was with you now. That's right. You guys really like to do things like that. You already know, right? Indeed. By the way, I think the number of people here has increased considerably. Right. Thanks to you I'm making more money. Now that I can come and go to the Count's family, I did not only leave employees in the city to market the product once, but I did open a store, albeit a small one, you see. In my previous world, it's like the Osaka head office and the Tokyo branch office, huh? It seems to be difficult to become a large store with a warehouse in the capital, but if it's all right to functions even as the worst store, then there's no problem, I guess. I see, that's a good thing. Hell right. So today, should I prepare the usual things? Oh, for this time, if you have 2 sets of alcohol and beddings, could I get them too? Yes, we have those. Shall I pay as usual way too? Yeah, I'll leave it to you. When I nod, Camilo looks at the clerk. The clerk nodded and left the room. After that, while unloading our products, we talk about the things that happen in the capital with Camilo. Samia and Reich were happily listening to things that I and Diana didn't tell them about, although Diana didn't know some part too. Chapter 67, New Product. I bought some things and left the Camilo store. This town is not as big and crowded as the capital, but it is as lively. 1 man and 3 women pull a cart through it, though I and Reich are pulling it, so we stand out. However, even if others have no carts, there are some groups that similarly stood out. Almost all of them are still wearing traveling outfits, but I wonder if they are the so-called adventurers. I'm willing to live my second life in this world as a blacksmith, but if I had another cheat, I might have ended that way too. As I thought of that, I absent-mindedly stared at the travelers. What? Aizu, are you planning to set out on a journey? Samia questioned me. Hearing that voice, I can't tell that Reich and Diana are also concerned about me. Certainly not. Having a special circumstance, I wandered from the north to here, you see. I'm sorry for carelessly worrying you guys. I glossed it over with a made-up story. When it's against Samia, I'm quite nervous whether my lie will be exposed or not, but neither having a special circumstance nor wandering from another place is a lie. It's just that, the means of my transportation is a little unusual. Well, it might be good if we go out on a pleasure trip once in a while. With that, it seems like Samia has lost curiosity in that topic. For now I'm relieved that I didn't get caught. At the same time, I heard Reich and Diana sighing in relief. What's wrong with the both of you? Boss is sometimes like this, it's like you're about to do something dangerous, you know. Apart from that, it's not like your blacksmithing talent is being threatened by someone, but rather, I feel like you are going to disappear all of a sudden without any signal. Maybe Samia felt the same thing, so she asked you about it. Reich said so, and Diana nodded next to her. Well, it's true, since I came from another world. At least, I won't keep quiet about things like this from my family, you know. Yes. The three of them, including Reich, were relieved hearing that. We were cautious on our way home, but we are able to return safely without any problems. Except for Diana's case, nothing has happened in particular until today. This may also be a good luck. I don't know if there is a God in this world, but if there is, I'll give my thanks. Once we got home, we brought the luggage in. I asked Samia and Diana to bring the wine and salt inside the house while I and Reich stuffed the iron ores and charcoal into the workshop. The consumption of iron ores has not caught up with the supply yet. However, I don't know what might happen, and I can still store some iron stones in the workshop, so it's okay to have Camilo supply it for a while. It may be better to build a storehouse before it gets too bad. Then, when we finished carrying all the luggage inside, Samia called me. What's the matter? It smells like it's going to rain. Combined with the wind's direction, it seems to last a little longer. How long? I don't know for sure, but I don't think it will last a week. I think it's for about 3 days. I see. I don't have water jar that can hold enough water for 3 days worth. In any case, since it's about 30 minutes for a round trip, I should go fetch tomorrow's portion this day. After I came back from fetching water, I prepared our dinner. It's the usual menu for today. I bought additional peppers, so I added a little more to the soup. The dinner today was lively, with the story of Reich, who had traveled far, and Diana, who was sometimes taken by her father when he went out. It's all about where they went. It seems that iron ores are mined from the mountains that I saw when we left the capital. I would like to go on a trip there if I have the opportunity. The next day, it was indeed raining, which probably happened after midnight. It's a pretty large streak of pouring rain, so I'm quite thankful to myself for deciding to go fetch some water yesterday. For today, we'll replenish the sheet metal. It's all about melting the iron ores in the furnace and hitting the produced iron. From this time, Diana also joined the work. We don't have to be so careful at this stage, so it's fine. The furnace continues to spit out iron without stopping, and we continue to make sheet metals. At the end of the day, a considerable number of sheet metals were produced. Diana is quite patient, maybe because it is an unfamiliar task. Thanks for the hard work, Diana. Are you guys always doing this? We have to do this once a week, if not, we'll run out of materials, you see. Seems like it is right to say that you guys are strong. Samia and Reich are strong by nature. Well, that may be the case for me as well. That's because I got some cheat though. Samia and Reich, who were listening to our conversation, playfully made a bicep pose. Both Samia and Reich has well-developed biceps. Seeing that, Diana burst out in laughter and the workshop was filled with laughter. Then the work for the day was over. As Samia has said, it's also raining the next day, but it is much better compared to yesterday. Let's fetch some water quickly. Hioa, you're soaking wet. I unexpectedly get that wet when I came back from fetching water. Diana said. Welcome back. You'll wipe your body, right? Here, take this. She gave me a cloth. Thank you. You're welcome. Diana smiled sweetly. I quickly returned to the room so that she wouldn't see my embarrassed look. Today I will make a new item. The modest applause of the three people resounded. What are you making, boss? With her sparkling eyes, Rike jumps up and asked me that. This is what I really like about Rike. It will be a halberd. Halberd. Samia tilted her head in confusion as she doesn't seem to know about it. Unless you're on the battlefield, you won't see it that much. It was a short spear that the guards in the capital had. Ah, it's like a spear and an axe combined. Whoa, what's with that? It sounds to be powerful. It is powerful. Depending on the case, a halberd, which can't do various things other than stabbing and slashing, will have a wider range of correspondence. Hearing such explanation, Diana asks a question. But, how will you make a halberd? Can't you sell it? Yes. We got a place to sell it. I grinned hearing Diana's question. Chapter 68, Halberd. I then keep explaining. Well, since it's the first time, I wonder if I should sell 5 pieces first. Then, where will you sell it? To the town guards. To be exact, their superior. In other words, your brother. The guards are now using short spears. And the lord of the town who gave them that is the Earl House. Simply put, that's also why Marius was assigned as a guard there even though he was the third son of the Earl House. The reason why he was not the captain of the guards was because he doesn't like being called as someone who benefits from the influence of his parents. And Marius must have wanted something a little better, that's probably because he was a guard himself. Otherwise, he doesn't have to bother buying a sword from me and insisting that it's for his own use. I think part of it is his discretion towards his father and brother. So, I'm guessing that if I make a halberd this time and negotiate with the Earl House for the sake of the town's guards, it will likely be sold. If it doesn't sell, I'll just ask Camilo if he wants to buy it. If it still doesn't sell, then I'll think of it at that time. I may have made full use of his position, but I will make a halberd that is worth it. There may be additional training for them to use it, but that's okay. I'll just ask Marius to think about it. Oh, I see. Nii-san might buy it. Right. Well then, I'll leave the general model ones to Rike and everyone. All right, boss. Then, let's make short swords today, Samia, Diana. Okay. Yes. And everyone starts their own work. I heat the sheet metal and first make the tip of the spear part. In the case of an ordinary spear, a function to slash is required to some extent, but since it is a halberd, it will be shaped into a triangular pyramid that specializes in stabbing. Slashing is left to the axe part. If the tip is thin, durability may be impaired, so I make it thick and short. The base is left unprocessed for the combination part later. Once I made that shape, I used another sheet metal for the axe and hook part. I then put 2 sheets of sheet metal on top of each other, put a straw ash between them, heat and hit them to make them one. Then I stretched them to form the shape. The axe part is shaped so that one of the vertices of the triangle faces the center, and the outer base part is gently curved inward. I then made the hook part so that it extends to the other side. This shape is like a hawk's beak. This completes the 2 parts. The spear part and the axe and hook part. The base of the spear part and the center of the axe and hook part are spread out in the shape of a thin cone divided vertically. I then attached them together and then the final stage will be done. Quenching, tempering and sharpening the axe part completes the finishing of the head part. In this area, the temperature, hitting method and quality were completely controlled by the capability of my cheat. I'm on this already, so this time, I concentrated on it and created it with the quality of a high-end model. After this, the head and the base part, which is made into a slightly pointed spike, will be fixed to the handle and the halberd will finally be completed. The wood to be used for making the handle is still outside, so it will be made later. Creating it is like combining different weapons, but connecting the handle to the head would not have been possible in this short time without the cheat. Although it was a short time, even if I relied on my cheat and installed knowledge so far, half of it is with me grasping the process, so a considerable amount of time has passed. From tomorrow, I will be able to make it a little faster. I had a little time to spare, so I'll make a replacement for my self-defense knife that I dissolved during the Emerald House's turmoil. Since this is a custom model, I had a complete concentration with my cheat's full power from the time I hit the sheet metal to extend it. I look at it carefully so that things like the composition of steel are even, then I hit is so that something like a glitter comes out. When the whole thing becomes neat, I then shape it and finish it. This is a work I've been doing many times. The only difference is how concentrated I am in my work. The finished knife still has a strong glitter. I wonder why this didn't come out when I hit it in the capital. Anyways, I'm glad I made something good. That should be fine for now. Before I knew it, the three of them, especially Reich, were seriously looking at the knife I struck. As expected, the beauty of the work that boss made seriously is different. Reich says that with an entranced look. Reich at a time like this is a little scary. I don't know as much as Reich, but it's indeed beautiful. I don't really understand it, but I know it's amazing. Diana and Samia also praised me. Thank you for your praise, guys. However, I couldn't do this when I was in the capital, you see. Really? Yeah. So I had no choice but to hit one with my self-defense knife mixed in, and it worked. Oh, that's why you made a custom product today. That's right. Well, if I make one here, I can't make it with the usual quality, so I was wondering if there is something here. Hearing what I said, the other three thought about it too, but they didn't seem to think of any reason for it. Though I'm saying that it is a problem, I can't move to any other place for now, and I have no intention of doing so in the first place, so it's almost the same as there really is no problem. I said so and laughed, ha ha ha. However, there is no guarantee that there will be no such scene where we have to abandon this place. For that time, it will be necessary to find the difference and explore why it could not be done in the capital. What we don't know right now is that we have the help of someone who has some expertise other than what we know, including my installed knowledge. But first of all, what expertise it is, we should start from there. Now then, it's getting late, so let's end the work and prepare for our meal. When I said that, Samia rejoiced and shouted Yahoo and ended up being rebuked by Reich. Chapter 69, Completion and Teaching. The next day, as Samia said, it was still raining. Even so, it seems that the streaks of pouring rain are weaker than yesterday. I went to fetch water, but I wasn't as wet when I came home yesterday. I hope it stops tomorrow. Yeah. We can't do the laundry too. That's right. We haven't been able to do the laundry for the last 3 days, so we got a lot of laundry. Fortunately, each person has a change of underwear for about 5 days, so it's still okay. But if it doesn't stop by tomorrow, we'll be in trouble. I have no choice but to pray for it. Today I'll still be making the halberd while Reich and others will be making the general model ones. Both Samia and Diana seem to be getting better and better in this work. If this is the case, I may not have to help with the general model ones. Actually, yesterday they also made a reasonable number. This will allow me to concentrate on my work. As expected, I was able to make 2 halberd heads and butt end on this day. The work itself is the same as I did yesterday. However, unlike with knives, it takes a lot of work. Even if the quality is reduced to a general model, mass production seems to be impossible. It's a lot of work, so I'd like to let Reich and the others make it. In that case, a spear or something like that might be better. I had a little free time, so I replenished the arrowheads at this time. If it rains tomorrow, Samia and Diana will go out for harvesting or hunting. I don't feel like stocking meat. We'll be fine for a week or so, and I'm confident that it could even last for 2 weeks if we are frugal, but that would be a little lonely. In addition, long rains do not always come. Thus we should proceed for replenishment. The next day, as Samia said, it was no longer raining. When I went outside, there were still puddles here and there. Even so, the rising sun dyed the land in gold, and the shadows of the trees in the forest made it look like a painting. Well, there's a saying that early birds get the worm. Laundry starts after I came back from fetching some water, but for today, the amount would be large. It's not going to end soon and they are going to use more water than usual, so I went back to fetching water again. I don't really help with laundry. It's not as sexy as it was in my previous world, but I'm refraining from having my presence while the women are washing their underwear because it makes me feel uncomfortable even if they don't mind. As for the division of housework, I am in charge of the meals, so please exempt me from that. After having the slightly late breakfast, Samia and Diana went hunting. Samia was in a good mood. She seems to be happy to have her arrowheads replenished. But when I asked Reich, she said, "It's a girl's feeling, a maiden's heart, but what kind of maiden heart is that?" As for us, the blacksmith group, my work for today will be the continuation of halberd, and Reich is in charge of the production of the general model knives. This is originally because she doesn't need that much help from Samia and Diana. Since both of that are forging works, the sound of hammers constantly echoes in the workplace. The sound is a little different because the ones I make are different. It sounds like 2 people playing instruments of different sizes, and it is a little fun. In between my work, I look at the knife that Reich made. Her skills are rising little by little. Something like the unevenness has decreased remarkably. At this time, it would be nice to say, "Are you able to hear the voice of iron?" But unfortunately, I'm doing that with my cheat, so I'm not really sure if it's applied to her. So I can only do the watch and steal method for her to get familiar to it by observing where I look at and how I hit it. As Reich showed me the knife she created, I also asked her to observe the creation of a high-end model halberd, although it was different from what she's used to. I've already made the first one, so it's the second one for today. Because it's the combination of different items such as spear, axe, and pickaxe, I hope she can learn how to make them and how to combine them. How is it? I passed the completed halberd head to her. Reich scrutinized it after she received it. It's amazing, not only in the degree of perfection for each part but also with the joint parts. It looks like it was originally one. And as usual, she starts her comment. Nevertheless, I am relieved that there's no problem with my finished product and it had a good quality as I showed it to Reich. So, did you grab something? Yes. I don't think I can catch up with boss, but I've seen more things I want to try. That's good. I want to teach you properly but I can't explain it. No, not at all. This is usually something you can't just steal and learn. Boss is too kind already. If you have something you want to see in the future, don't hesitate to tell me. Understood, boss? I will do my best. Reich spoke with determined eyes. Well, it's not raining today, so let's finish the halberd. I brought some wood from the outside and make 5 2M rods. With a custom model knife and my cheat, I can make an accurate and beautiful rod in a short amount of time. I thought of it many times and this cheat is indeed thorough. After attaching the halberd's head and butt end to both ends of the rod with nails, the halberd is finally completed. I'd like to give it a try, but it's impossible to swing a 2M long object in the workshop. I decided to go outside and look at the feel of its swings. In a little more time, the sun, which painted the ground in gold in the morning, now dyed the area in orange hue. However, the sky will still be dyed in blue for a little more. While it's still like that, as if there's an enemy, I simply swing the 2M halberd around, imaginarily poke him with a spear, cut him with an axe, and used the pickaxe part to swipe off his feet. The pickaxe part and the axe part are just balanced, and the balance between the head part and the butt end is also not bad. If one can use it properly, it will be more useful than a short spear. In that way, I repeated the same movement several times for a while. When the sun was about to set, I finished today's work. I also ended the trial swing work. Then, clap, 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 I heard 3 applause sounds. Samia and Diana are already back. Yeah, I've been for a while. I'm home. I'm home. Hey, Izu can also handle a halberd well. Welcome back to both of you. My skill on this is just as you have seen. I don't think I'm moving better than when I'm using a longsword though. I seem to be super strong when it's a longsword, but when Diana said that, it looks like I also appear to be strong when I'm using a halberd. I wonder if I should make about 2 custom models for home defense. Rather than that, since everyone is back, let me prepare the meal. What did Samia and Diana catch today, by the way? Oh yeah, listen. Today. Talking about that, we went back inside the house. Chapter 70, After Sales Care. The next day, Samia and Diana pulled up the killed huge, as Samia described, wild boar from the lake. Well, it's certainly quite big as Samia had said. Even in the previous world, it is said that wild boar weighs about 70 kilograms. However, for this one, it seems to be that much even if the intestines are pulled out. If I peel off its skin and turn it into meat, I think it will be significantly reduced. It will still be a good amount for the next 2 weeks though. We made a carrier and pulled it as usual. The load is big but it's easy to pull since there are 4 people. I handled it once we are back. As expected, I was able to secure a considerable amount of meat. With this, we'll be fine for a while. Shall I catch one again by next week? Yeah, that should be fine. Or rather, I think that there will be an addition to our stocks. Next week again then. What should be good? Samia is in a good mood because she caught a big game. The big games in this forest are bears. Anyway, what else is there other than wild boars and deer? That's it for the big ones. If it's a little smaller, there are raccoon dogs sometimes. Raccoon dog. It is about this size. It also has a cute face. Samia represents its size by hand. Is it about 70 centimeters? It's definitely big for a raccoon dog. Is it delicious? Well, it tastes okay. It's not bad, but there are more deer and wild boars around and they are delicious too, so I didn't bother catching it. I see. It's their turn if you can't catch any other prey, huh? Right. While having such conversation, the meat is being salted and dried. Of course, the amount we'll eat today is different. For our lunch this day, I served sauteed wild boar meat in a strong drink, brandy. I also served salt and pepper steak. Not to mention Samir and Reich, it was also well received by Diana. In the afternoon, Reich and I will do blacksmithing work while Samir and Diana will do cloth repairs. It's not that it is big and loose, but it seems that there are some parts that are slightly damaged. Of course, it also includes underwear. I can't do that for sure. So I'll leave it to them and we will concentrate on the blacksmithing work. As usual, I'm working on the high-end model and Reich is on the general model ones. As for our speed, I'm quicker, but until today, Reich has made quite an amount, so if she creates one again tomorrow, we'll be able to secure a sufficient amount for delivery. The sound of flames and the sound of hammers echoed in the smithy. And as the hammer bounced over it, as if it's dancing with the bright red iron as the stage, the products took shape one after another. The next day, Samir and Diana, who had their lunch boxes, went out to harvest food. It seems that they'll look for fruits and vegetables this time. Reich and I will still do some blacksmithing today. Don't you want to go out once in a while? Why? Oh no, it's just that Reich, you're always doing some blacksmithing work, right? Samir and Diana go out too, you see. I'll be lying if I say that I don't want to go out, but dwarfs normally do this and it is fun enough too. Oh, I see. If that's the case, it's fine then. Thank you for your concern, boss. No. Why, yeah. Then the two of us start blacksmithing. Even before evening comes, we were able to make a decent number. At this rate, it may be more than usual. Shall we take a day off tomorrow? When I'm thinking about that, there's some knocking sound on the door for the sales space. It's also being hit pretty hard. Leaving the surprised Reich on the spot, I heard a familiar voice as I headed toward the door. Izu, are you there? As usual, it's that absurd loud voice. Wait a minute, I'll open it now. I yelled back as loudly as I can and opened the door. There, a tall, red-haired woman with a big smile on her face, which also has a big sword scar that is also charismatic enough, was standing in front of me. Yo, it's been a long time. Hey. Thanks for coming. Come in and sit down. Oh, thanks. The woman Helen, who is a mercenary and is the so-called lightning sword because of her quickness, roughly goes in and sits down with plop. The actual sound is not really that much, but I feel that her movement is noisy, probably because her stride is big. I told Reich to have some wine diluted with some water prepared instead of tea. Well then, why did you come today? Was there a problem? No, there are no noticeable damage. However, I'm going to a battlefield a little far away this time, so I'd like to ask for some maintenance and checking before that. Ah, I see. When I received the two short swords from Helen, I check for blade chips and deformation. Did you use this a lot? It's been a week of training since then, and after that, I've been wandering around because I'm asked to get rid of bandits near here. And in the meantime, I practiced against a log, that's mostly it. I see. There are almost no blade chips and it can be said that there are no distortion. To put it the other way around, there are some. What kind of strength and how much did she use them for her to damage my custom model so much? As expected, there are things that you won't know until you put it into action. Oh, that's right. Helen suddenly stands up as if she remembered something. HN. What is it? I readied myself for it. The swords are just according to my image. They are insanely strong. It cuts well. It saved my life several times. Ho ho. Then with the sword I received in this state, I think she used it in recklessly. Is it all right for it to endure this much? The material in itself is just steel after all. It's not enough even if I thank you many times, but still, let me say it. Thank you. After she said that, Helen stretched out her right hand. This is my job. I'm just doing the job I decided to do. I hold her outstretched hand. I felt pain as my hand was tightly gripped, but right now, my happiness dominated that. Boss is not really honest with yourself. I can only ignore Reich's words while sighing and laughing. Chapter 71, Workmanship is important. There is almost no blade chips or distortion, and I think it will be okay to be used for the next 6 months, but still, let me fix it. While having a handshake, I talk to Helen. Okay, I'll leave it to you. Then please wait a moment while I repair it. Hey. HN. Helen timidly calls out to me. I thought she's a manly one, but it seems that it may not be the case. Can I take a look while you are fixing it? Yeah, I don't mind. I don't think she can understand it just by looking at me work, but that's not something I can refuse. It may be necessary to refrain from using fire because it is dangerous. In some case, it is close to 1000 degrees Celsius. Anyways, to sharpen and fix this kind of distortion, I will not use fire. On the contrary, it's scary to think that the sense of quenching or tempering with fire will not happen. All right. Thank you. She hits my back with great vigor. As I thought, she's a manly one. The word Amazon suits her well. Boss, can I take a look too? Yes, of course. Reich also wanted to take a look, so I agreed. Rather, in Reich's case, it is better for her to take a good look at it. Maybe she knows that too, so she asked me. First, let's remove the distortion. That said, it's not really that distorted, so I just put it on the anvil and hit it. I can't see where and how strong should I hit it with the power of the cheat, so I hit carefully to restore the distorted part. Different from the sound during the usual blacksmithing work, a soft and clear sound echoed out. After finishing the first one, I handed the sword to Helen. Take a look at it first. All right. After Helen receives the sword, she swings it a little further away. It must be because of her sword prowess that she does not feel nervous at all. Oh, whoa! Helen shouted in amazement. Izu, this is amazing. It felt similar to the first one. You are amazing too, as you can feel that even if I just corrected that degree of distortion. This is my honest opinion. A skilled craftsman's fingers can detect that's something amiss even if it's a few microns, and she's amazing as she felt the same thing. So are you okay with it? Of course. It looks like a brand new one. When I take a look at the sword again after she returned it to me, I noticed that the leather wrapping on the hilt had been rewrapped several times, indicating that it had been used for a long time just like she had said. Would you like me to fix the leather wrapping on this one as well? No, it's fine. My hand is used to it, you see. I wrapped it like that for that purpose. All right, I'll just fix the blade. Yeah. I carefully fixed the distortion on the other one as well. The clear hammer sound echoes again in the quiet smithy. Both Reich and Helen held their breath as they watch closely as I work. It's as if they thought that their breathing sounds would interfere with my work. Hey, Helen. Do you enjoy watching this? Yeah. When I look at it, I feel like I'm a craftsman too. No, I am a blacksmith for sure. Well, I'm a blacksmith. A new blacksmith, I should say. I know that, but my father was a craftsman and I saw him make various things, you see. Hey, what kind of craftsman is he? He's a saddler. I had to leave home for various reasons. A saddler, huh? That sounds interesting too. I feel that it's also a profession. Horseshoes and nails are the domain of blacksmiths, so I might be able to do something like that too. While talking about such things, I gradually removed the distortions. When all the distortions were corrected, Helen murmured, "Izu won't ask why I left home, huh? It's not that I'm not interested about it. It's just that I generally don't ask about a woman's past. Like you don't want to hear their terrible experience, huh? Perhaps. Well, how you survive in the past, I can't ask you about that much. All right, I'm done here." I handed the one that I just finished repairing to Helen for her to check its condition. But there seems to be no problem, so now, I just have to sharpen it. The next step is to sharpen the blade that said, "It is all thanks to the benefits of the cheat." I now start to sharpen the blade. Both Reich and Helen are looking at it with a serious look. Eventually, I stopped when the blade chips disappeared. This should be fine for a while. I handed her the finished piece. As Helen was checking the finish item, the asterisk Naruko in the workshop made some sound. Ah! Is it that time already? What's with the Naruko? When the door to the house opens, this one will ring. Then why don't you open this door? The Naruko on the house rings. Heh, that's interesting. Well, it's convenient because sometimes I need to leave one of the doors open, just like now. Perhaps my companions are back. As expected, Samia and Diana came to the workshop not long after. "I'm home." "Oh, a customer. Welcome home." "Yeah. The one who asked for a custom-made sword before." Helen bows to Diana. "Oh, isn't this Helen? How are you doing?" "Thanks, I'm doing fine." She knows Samia because she met her when she came here before. She's a friendly one, so it's easy to greet her. "Helen. That lightning sword Helen you said before." "HN. Yeah. That's right, but..." Diana asked me, but Helen answered. Diana's eyes light up when she hears that. "Helen. HN. What is it, Izu?" Instead of paying for the repair, with Diana, would you like to practice with the lady over there? "Oh. Will that be okay?" "Yeah, I'll finish the other one in the meantime." "Okay, leave it to me. Go easy on her though." I throw the wooden sword I always use to Helen. Helen received it brilliantly and she then went out with Diana. Diana was also visibly excited. Is Helen that famous? The information about the famous people on this world is not in my installed knowledge. As I watched them go, I picked up the sword I haven't sharpened yet and went back to my work. Chapter 72, There's Always Someone Better. I just finished the unsharpened one and I was cleaning up the workshop when Helen and Diana came back. As I expected, Diana was badly beaten. For sure, Helen did not go easy on her. How did it go? I asked Helen and Diana either way. Oh, that. This young lady got some good basic moves, but maybe she should learn a little less neat technique. Helen answered. I mean, Diana is still out of breath and is unlikely to be able to answer. Helen, who normally excelled at attacking with two short swords, must have overwhelmed her even if she only wielded one. She lives up to her name, the lightning sword, after all. I can only feel apologetic for Diana. She must have been forced to deal with the sword attacks without knowing where the sword would come from. You did not do something like blinding moves, right? Of course I didn't do that. Well, I made a lot of feints though. As expected, it seems that the sparring wasn't really something like anything goes. But I think this feint includes something like pretending to kick. I haven't done that during our training, so it's easy to imagine that Diana, who was supposed to use only the sword, wouldn't be able to handle it. On the other hand, Diana's sword style must have been too straightforward. And against Helen, her feints will also not work. Recently, she's able to do that well, but of course she won't be comparable to a mercenary who have been through numerous battles and even has two names. But I think she's stronger than those guys from the royal palace that I had a match with before. Izu trained her, right? Yeah. It's entirely basic swordsmanship, but I've been training with her since she came to my house. I knew it. The way she does her feints were similar to Izu. It was so similar that I could easily deal with it. Remembering the movements of the person you only met once and made a way to respond to it, Helen is also one hell of cheat character, huh? No, on a battlefield, if you can't deal with your opponents the first time, it could mean the end for you, so it's only natural. I think it only makes sense to increase the number of situations you can deal with right away. Izu sparred with Helen for half an hour. Diana, who just adjusted her breath, asked me. Well, that's right. If I'm not mistaken, she is dual-wield at that time. I just realized that there really is someone better out there. When Diana said that, as she dropped her shoulders, Reich nodded in agreement and patted her shoulders to comfort her. It seems like she too felt the same way. All right. Then let's spar too, Izu. Read the mood. Without noticing the mood, Helen says so excitedly. Why should I? I won't do it. Why? I'm just a blacksmith. I'm no match for an active mercenary like you. It's fine. Come on, let's do it. I won't do it. It's getting late too. What is your plan? I don't mind if you stay here though. Oh. It's already getting dark outside, huh? This is quite far from the town and we won't feel comfortable making you go back through the pitch-black forest, so, stay for the night. Diana's room has just been created and can be used as the guest room. The three girls nodded their heads in agreement. Even though she's probably the strongest one in the area, it's still not a good idea to send a woman back in this situation. I'll take your offer then. We are going to town as well tomorrow anyway, so we can't go together. Oh, thank you. Don't mind it, it's a mere chance, you see. Today's supper and tomorrow's breakfast will include portion for one more person, but I don't have to worry about that. Should I show my skills then? The other day we had a rather lavish meal, and today, we had a similar menu with a lot of meat which was well received by all. Helen was so impressed that she said, "It tastes good when you use pepper, huh?" She also said that she has a lot of money, so she would buy it too. The topic during the supper is Helen's story on the towns she has been to. As a mercenary, she traveled around the kingdom and she knew more about the underground from her position, so we heard a lot of interesting stories. Brothel, huh? No, I'm not interested. I'm saying the truth, okay? The next morning, Helen also joined in the daily routine after fetching water. When there are 5 people, the washing tub is too small. Well, Helen also participated in doing the laundry. I'm glad that she seems to be having fun. After getting ready to go out to the town, we moved right away. Reich and I pull the cart, and the other three are the ones checking the vicinity. It's just Helen who was added, but the sense of security I felt is tremendous. When she was doing mercenary jobs, she was often asked to escort a caravan. We left the forest talking about that topic. When we went out on the main road, the landscape spread out. The sky looked as if white paint had been dropped on a blue canvas, and there was a carpet of green spreading far into the distance. It's always such a tranquil scene greeting us, but having a good view means that we can also be seen from a distance, which is rather convenient for bandits. However, according to Helen, we should be fine because the main group of bandits around here have been exterminated. In any case, I felt reassured because it is said by the person who was at the forefront of the subjugation. However, there should still be small groups that were not subdued, so we decided to go on the main road with minimum caution. Despite the fact that 1 man, 4 women and a cart, we arrived at the town without any trouble. I suppose it may be because the women look very strong, but basically, I think that the efforts of the town's guards are also contributing to a large part of it. Today's guard is the one who checked Diana before. When he saw us, he smiled for a moment and then his face immediately stiffened. I was thinking that you became popular again, but don't tell me that the woman there is really that lightning sword. Yes, I got to know her a little. Who are you really? I'm just a very ordinary blacksmith. Ordinary blacksmiths don't know the lightning sword, you know. Well, anyway, don't cause trouble. Yes, of course. Nonetheless, Camilo was probably the first one she got acquainted in the first place, and she seems to know Marius as the 3rd son of the Count family as well, and their friendship is more of a mystery to me. Anyway, we bowed to the guard and passed the entrance to the town. Then we bid goodbye to Helen there. I don't have anything to do with Camilo. I think I'll look for you again when I come back, and I'll be in your care again at that time. I'll bring some souvenirs. With that, Helen left for the inner part of the free town. I couldn't help but think that it would be the best souvenir if she returned safely and I could check the condition of her swords. Chapter 73, Delivery and Acquisition. After parting from Helen, we head straight to Camilo's shop. The number of product types to be wholesaled has increased by 1, but the procedure itself has not changed. After we placed the cart inside the warehouse, we greet the person in charge of the warehouse and we then head upstairs to where the business meeting room is. After waiting for a while, Camilo and Clarkson came. Yo! How are you doing? So I guess. The business is starting to grow because we have more credibility now that we are affiliated with the Count's house. Oh, that's good for you then. I don't know how it was for Marius, but at least, it seems to be good for Camilo. Did you bring the usual today? Yeah, the usual ones, but I also brought 5 halberds. Halberd? Why those 2? I want you to sell it to His Excellency, the Count, for the guards in this town. Oh, I see. Do you think it will go well? It will be fine, I guess. There are other places to sell it to. I'll even buy it myself. It would be helpful if you could do that. This completes the negotiation. Both me and Camilo don't think that Marius won't buy them, but if he wouldn't buy it, it would be nice if there was a place to sell them to. All right, then let us go to the next topic. Camilo lowered his voice a little. You said that you want a rare ore, right? Yeah. Did you find it? Well, you can't say that. I only got the information about it and I haven't obtained it yet, but according to the intel from His Excellency, it seems that there's some apothecary in the capital that came from the north. If you want it, I'll get it. Apothecary in the previous world. Apothecary was a legendary metal that was said to be the same as Hihiro Kani. But in this world, apothecary was a metal that was harder than iron produced in the north and it glows a dull blue hue even after processing. That's what it says from my installed knowledge. It's not as hard as Hihiro Kani, but it's rare enough, huh? That's great. Can't you get a hold of that for me? All right. Well, do pardon me if I was too late. It's okay. It's good enough that you found it. So, how much will it cost? 3 gold coins. Oh, that's quite a price to pay. I can't buy it with the money I got when I made Helen's sword and the reward from the Emerald House's mess, but it's still not a price that a normal blacksmith can't afford. There is a way to get it for 2 gold coins though. I don't want to be tangled in something troublesome. What are you saying? There's no such trouble. Well, other than the count, I got a request from another route to get some mithril and turn it into fine rapiers. I see, it will be the processing fee, huh? Well, it is like that. Putting aside that there's no cost on raw materials, 1 gold coin for the processing fee is not a bad deal. It even comes with an opportunity to deal with mithril. Is it okay to engrave the symbol of our workshop in an inconspicuous place? Yeah, that's fine. All right, I accept. Then, that's it. When Camilo looked at Clark-san, he nodded back and left the room. After that, we talked about the state of the town and what was going on the other towns as well. When the loading of the luggage was finished, we also left the room, picked up the cart in the warehouse and headed home. On the way back, the guard on duty was different from the one on our way in, so we just passed by with a nod. The degree of our tension on the way back is more tense than when we are on the way going to the city. Well, that's because mithril were loaded in the cart. There are 4 of us, and 2 of the escorts are also skilled, but it is impossible to tell them not to be nervous about the expensive materials. Even with small items, if they realized that there are expensive materials, it is quite possible that they will aim for us to make a fortune. Thus, we tried to keep things as usual as much as possible. Occasionally, the bushes make rustling noises, but Samia says that it's just the wind or small animals. Nothing happened until we entered the forest, and I relievedly stroked my chest. To be honest, I felt more comfortable in the forest where we only have to be careful about bears than on the road where we have to be wary of bandits. In the end, we got home without any problems. As usual, I had Samia and Diana bring the foodstuffs inside while me and Reich took care of the iron ores, charcoal, and mithril. Although mithril has this silvery glow, it doesn't look very different from the other metals. It seems that it will shine faintly if processed properly, but that is not the case at the moment. Anyhow, for now, we just brought it in. The next day, I'm curious about the mithril, but since it's better to make a week's worth of sheet metal, we process it first. Since the 4 of us split up the work, we were able to replenish a considerable number. Then, the next day, we finally started forging mithril. Forging mithril is not something that happens very often, so Reich was half helping and half observing, while Samia and Diana were just observing. After grabbing the mithril with the pincers, I raised the temperature of the fire in the fire bed. Normal silver would melt when it reached the temperature at which iron could be processed, but mithril showed no such signs. When I find that the temperature has reached the point where it can't be processed with the help of my cheat, I strike it with a hammer on the anvil. Different from that of an iron, a clear sound, like that of hitting a glass, echoes in the smithy. Ordinary steel can be deformed to some extent by this blow, but surprisingly, mithril is difficult to deform. This is quite tricky, huh? Is it difficult even with Boss Hammer? Yeah. It hasn't changed much. I should have taken a little more processing fee. When I grumbled, the three of them giggled. While listening to them, I hit it again 4 to 5 times, but it is already below the temperature that can be processed. I plunge it into the fire bed once more. It seems like this will take a lot of work. Well, it's mithril. It's not something an ordinary blacksmith can handle after all. That's true, but considering the fact that I've been casually processing steel so far, this kind of difficulty is quite vexing. That said, I had no choice but to process it steadily. I swung the hammer again on the mithril I had just taken from the fire bed. Chapter 74, Mithril Rapier. I hit the heated mithril and stretch it thinly. To stretch it to the same length as the normal steel, it seems that it takes 2 to 3 times longer. However, the thing that makes me think that it is indeed a mithril is because there is no unevenness in the structure, which always occurs with steel. It felt nice to be able to concentrate on the stretching part. One more thing is that, it is so light that it makes the stretching process easier. Since I'm going to put it in the fire bed a lot, it's better if it's light. However, I also feel that if I hit it in the wrong place, it will be ruined shortly after. When I stretch it, I make full use of my cheat so that the cross-section becomes diamond-shaped and the edges become thin. It would be unthinkable without my cheat, and it would take a considerable amount of concentration to hit it. And in that case, I got no choice but to spend a lot of time working on it. Though it is also quite fun because the sound when hitting it is very clear. The three of them also seemed to like this sound. It makes a beautiful sound. It sounds like an instrument. Samir and Reich also like it, huh? Well, me too. Each of them praised the sound. Then the momentum and hitting speed increased. The speed of stretching also increased a little. Even with lunch break in between, the work of stretching remains to be finished. I then hit it further and stretch it. Don't you get bored? I've been working on it all the time, so I asked the three of them. No. It's pretty fun to watch. I'm learning a lot from this too. In addition, I've never seen mithril forging at home. Yes, that's right. The sound is beautiful, and I never get tired of seeing it stretch little by little as you hit it. All three of them negated me. I see. That's good then if that's the case. I swing the hammer down on the mithril again. Eventually, I had a sheet of mithril about 1 meter long and the thickest width is about 2.5 centimeters, with a diamond-shaped cross-section and a slightly pointed tip. A sheet of mithril with a stick-like grip is completed. The tip of the sheet will be the point of the sword, so I hit it a little more to make it sharper. The basic shape itself is now completed. From there, I sharpened it all at once. Steel requires quenching and tempering, but mithril does not. I feel that it is suitable for mass production, especially if you have sufficient processing equipment and a certain level of skill. Well, actually, the distribution volume of raw materials for this is not enough, and the heating process is harsh, so even if computer control is possible like in the previous world, it is not possible to mass produce them in this world where civilization has not progressed to that extent. I was worried whether I could sharpen it with an ordinary whetstone, but I managed to sharpen it with the maximum use of my cheat. I could feel from my fingertips that the blade would be ruined right away if the angle or something like that was misaligned even a little. To put sharpness on the sword blade, I sharpen it slowly and carefully so as not to lose my concentration. Every time the blade moves on the whetstone, a cool, crisp sound echoed out, pleasing the ears of the observers. I move the blade like I'm doing a tiptoe, and after a long time, I was able to put sharpness on the sword's blade. All right, with this, the blade is now ready. Can't you wield it now? Diana asked with her cheeks flushed. I haven't wrapped some leather around the grip yet and there's no guard either, but if it's only swinging. Can't I try it? It's dangerous as it may slip, so let's do it outside. Okay, got it. I handed the mithril sword to Diana. Whoa, it's so light. Sometimes people say it's as light as feathers, but even if it's not that much, it's as light as a stick compared to steel. Yes. With this lightness, you can't make quick thrusts. Yeah, I guess. All right then, let's go outside. We went out in succession. Everyone's eyes are sparkling. Of course, in my whole life, this was also the first time I ever saw a mithril. I too can't contain my excitement. To begin with, Diana wields the rapier like it was nothing. Basically, it is a movement that moves around back and forth, left and right, and then she thrusts out. Perhaps because it is light, the thrust is reasonably sharp, but it doesn't seem like it will slip off. Although there is a difference between the short sword and the rapier, the speed of the thrust also seems to be considerably faster. As if she is dancing, Samia and Reich watch her movements with interest. The rapier is a weapon that can also be used to slash, but she doesn't move that much for it to be called as slashing away. Diana moves with a slashing movement interwoven with a piercing movement. I think this movement is also much faster than in our usual practice. Maybe you can move a lot faster because the weapon is so light. Just like I thought, Because the rapier is light, somehow my body itself feels light too. It seems that there is little exhaustion on my physical strength. I see. There's nothing better than a light weapon, right? The heaviness of the weapon itself is for weapons like hammer, but weapons for cutting or thrusting don't need that much weight. Then, let's try it with a target for the next one. I prepared a piece of lumber as the target. Should I stab this? Yeah. Be careful as it may fall down. Got it. Diana points the sword at the target, takes a quick breath, and exhales slowly. Only the sound of the wind covers the area. What had probably been a few seconds felt like several minutes or more. With a short shout, she unleashes a thrust as if she were pouring all of her strength into the rapier. The rapier hits its target and the point of the sword buries into the lumber. No sound was made. From the side, it looks as if the wood has swallowed the rapier. Diana pulls out the rapier with as much speed as she did when she thrust it. There was a hole in the shape of the rapier's tip, telling us clearly that what looked like a thrust earlier was not just what it looked like. It's amazing. There was almost no resistance. Does it feel the same from when you were just throwing thrusts in an empty space? Yeah. It's almost the same. Then, it's working fine. Let me see it. When I received the rapier from Diana, I scrutinized the point of the sword. As expected, there is no distortion or blade spillage. It can be said that the blade is now complete. But then I thought of something. I returned the rapier to Diana and I bring some rope and sheet metal from the workshop. I tied them to the lumber that we just used earlier. All right. Now try to thrust on this thing. Okay, got it. Diana nods obediently. She then holds her sword up again, and this time, she strikes with a slightly relaxed mood than before. Shirin Tilda, a light sound echoes around the area, and the sheet metal that is attached to the lumber has a hole in the shape of the rapier's tip. I checked the rapier again, but it wasn't distorted, spilled, or even scratched. I think I may have made something outrageous. When I said that, the three people who were watching nodded with a marvelous look on their faces. Chapter 75, Silver Melancholy. I already completed the blade of the mithril rapier, but I have some hesitation about releasing it. Well, I don't think that this one will make such big difference in this world. Even if it is just a short sword made by the other blacksmiths, if 100 people attacked me with it, I would not be safe for sure. However, if there is such sword that can be used to break boulders blocking the way, I think it's possible. It would mean that one can now pass through the path that they couldn't go through before, and that can greatly affect the outcome of the battle. Thus I'm wondering if it is okay to release it to the world. Helen's short sword was only made of steel, and although the sword that became the heirloom of the Emerald house was also made of steel, it is an item that is seldom used. I was asked to make a rapier, so it's probably not something that will be actively used in the front lines of battles. But even if I decide that it's fine for now, there's still the lingering issue whether or not I'll have to worry about it every time I make something similar in the future. I guess I have to settle this issue quickly. Hey, guys. What's up, Izu? What is it, boss? What is it, Izu? When I called out to them, the three of them replied simultaneously. I was wondering if I should bring this out to the world. If I'm not careful, it might bring disaster to various places. It doesn't break and it won't deform that easily, but it cuts really well. Its sharpness is unstoppable too, and it can't even break rocks. To be honest, I'm worried to release something like this into the world. I'm wondering if I'll be able to bear what lies ahead. That's what I'm concerned about, and I can't stop worrying about it. I honestly revealed my current feelings. I know I'm a big man over his 40s, but I don't think I can stand it. The three of them intently stared at me. They might give up on me and leave this place. If that happens, well, so be it. It's just that my capability is only up to that point. Silence permeated the garden. Once more, all I can hear is the sound of the wind. Phew phew phew. The next thing I heard was laughter. Izu is a human too, huh? I thought you would be indifferent to such things because you make amazing things. Diana says that with a smile. I thought so too. Since boss is being unworldly, I thought you wouldn't mind. Well boss, that's a matter for the user, not the one who makes it, you know. I've been taught that, and most blacksmiths are like that. Well, I can't understand why you would want to be careful. That's especially the case when it comes to making something as great as boss works. Reich is also grinning as she said that. Yeah, that's right. Whether the one you made will be a sword for protection or for assault, at the end, the person who got it will use it the way he wants. So you don't have to take responsibility for the result. Izu is such an upright person, that's why. If it's too heavy for you to bear, then let us carry it too. We are family after all, right? Samia slaps my shoulders as she said that. The pain is also strangely comfortable. Sorry for troubling you guys. Thank you. I bowed deeply to everyone and gently wiped the tears that spilled out of my eyes. Someone gently holds my head. Then, the next moment, I felt a hug at my leg, and then I felt someone hugging me from behind. Inside the forest, our family of 4 become one lump for a while. All right. When I lifted my head, Pack. I slapped my cheeks. I will not hesitate anymore. My job in this world is to make what I want to make and bring them out to the world for them to be useful to someone. Oh, you got such nice look, Izu. I'm originally good looking, you know. Ha. Then the 4 of us laughed. It will be fine, I have this family. I can't do it. Let's call it a day and let's prepare for our meal. Meal time. Meal time. Hey, Samia. I already told you that's improper, right? Reich chided Samia, who's getting all excited, and Diana looks at them with a smile, thus returning to our usual scene. I looked at such scene with a bright mood. The next day, I will make the sword guard and fist guard. I will make them using steel instead of mithril. The rapier's guard is cage-shaped, or rather, it is made of complex combination of curves, which is difficult to process if mithril is used. In addition, each curve is thin, so even if it is made of mithril, it will be misshapen if heavily used. Thus, considering that, it would be better if it could be replaced easily. Steel is expensive, but I'm sure other craftsmen can make it, and it will be fine even after it leaves my hand. For today, Reich and the others will be working on the general model, so they will not be around. Before starting the whole work, I engraved the sitting fat cat, which is the symbol of our workshop, with a chisel at the base of the blade, where it will be hidden when the sword guard is in place. The chisel had been hardened and resharpened so as not to lose to mithril, so although it took some effort, I managed to engrave it. I then heat up some sheet metal and made it into a thin rod shapes. Since I had been working on mithril all day yesterday, it seemed to me that this is a lot easier to process. Even though I'm using my cheat, I can make thin rods at a fairly fast pace. I cut it to a certain length and make it into a shape like indefinite integral or. After that, they are combined to form a spherical shape. In terms of its image, it is like the globe playground equipment that was usually in the parks in my previous world. Well, there were a lot fewer of those around the time I disappeared from that world. In any case, I completed a cage-like sword guard that was combined from the base of the sword so that the hand holding the grip was guarded. Now that the sword guard is completed, I will make the fist guard to go with it. I make a rod of the same thickness as the rods on the sword guard, then shape both ends of the rod into a ball. Once the fist guard is made, I combined it with the sword guard and the hilt is now completed. Before combining the parts of the hilt, I wrapped leather around the grip and fastened it to the handle head to finish the grip. If I don't do this first, it will be troublesome when it comes to the guard part. Now that the grip is done, I combined the fist guard and the sword guard to the blade. After assembling it, the result is a fine sword that can only be described as elegant. This is a sword that I would not be ashamed to show anywhere. And now I had no more doubt as to whether or not I would present this to the world. Chapter 76, The Usual Before Delivery. The day after the rapier's main parts were completed, I decided to make the sheath for it since I haven't made it yet. I didn't have any specific request for it, so I'll just make one for the time being. If they don't like it, I'll just make another one. Reich and the others are still creating general models today. I cut out 2 boards of appropriate length from the timber outside the yard and bring them to the smithy. The rest of the work is the same as the way I'm making scabbards up till now. I take a mold, cut it out roughly, stick it together, and scrape it. This time, as used on Japanese swords, I used a steel plate to reinforce the tip of the scabbard and the mouth part of the scabbard. It looks like a reinforced wooden white scabbard. If they wanted it to be more elaborate, I could also put a deer skin or I can engrave something here. But this time, I decided to deliver it as it is. It doesn't take much time to make one scabbard. Moreover, this time it's just a makeshift scabbard. As for the rest of the remaining time, it's in the process of making the high-end model ones. I took some of the short swords and long swords that were just taken out of the molds and start working on creating the high-end models. Looking at it this way, the quality of both Samia and Diana's castings has improved since I last saw them. Not to mention the general model ones, it seems that compared to before, less effort is needed to make a high-end model. Perhaps because I was hitting the sword quite intensively for these past 2 days, I was tempted to concentrate and erase all the unevenness. However, if I do that, it will become a custom model. I no longer hesitate in making something I want to make and bring it out to the world, but of course, that is a different story. In the first place, 1 gold coin apiece, the price depends on my mood, would be difficult to sell. So for the time being, the high-end model will be the highest grade product that will be mass-produced in this workshop. As I have thought, the product that had just come out of the mold was good, so the high-end model was completed quickly. I think it's okay to assign a little more hammering works to Diana in the future. We were able to get sufficient number of stocks on this day as well. At this rate, if we make knives tomorrow, we'll have enough for wholesale. The day after tomorrow might be a good day to take some time off. After the previous vacation, I hadn't been able to take another day off because of the trouble in the Emerald house. Making the mithril rapier took a lot of work too, and I would like to take a break. When I proposed to have a day off 2 days later during our dinner that night, it was unanimously approved. The next day, Samia and Diana went to hunt, perhaps that's in preparation for our day off. At first, Diana was completely exhausted when she came home, but the last few times she came back, she still had some energy left. She must have built up her stamina from walking and running in the forest. This is also evident in our daily training, and little by little, the time she takes on my strikes is getting longer than before. I'm not sure of the details, but at the current rate, she might be able to beat an ordinary soldier by exhausting his strength. If this keeps up, she may be the best in this area. And as for the smithy team, me and Reich start making knives. Reich is in charge of the general model and I will work on the high-end models. It's almost like we're working in an assembly line system, we're making knives skillfully and efficiently. Reich's production speed seems to be increasing. Well, she couldn't beat my speed, but there were times when we seemed to have a good match. Everyone's skills are getting better little by little. As we continued to work silently at that speed, we were able to secure more than enough for wholesale and we're able to finish the day's work before evening. Just then, the Naruko at the smithy rang, telling me that Samia and Diana were home. Oh, we're just in time. Yes. I'll clean up here. Yes, please do. Reich and I quickly clean up the smithy and return to the house. There, Samia and Diana, who had just returned, were unloading their stuffs, including the bow and arrow. Welcome home. How was it? I'm home. Oh, we killed a big deer. Oh, I see. I'm looking forward to pulling it up tomorrow. Yeah, you can look forward to it. Samia proudly stick out her chest. On the other hand, Diana looks a little engrossed to something. You can't say that it's like she have this gentle and warm glow around her face. Hey, Samia. What happened to Diana? Oh, that. You see. Samia sighs as if to say, good grief. After we killed the deer, I was gutting it when we ran into a family of wolves. There was a baby wolf with them. She said it was so cute and she's been like that ever since. Oh, I see. I imagined a puppy-like wolf wagging its tail. It will indeed be cute, so it's no wonder that she's smitten. What happened to that parent and child? I gave them the intestines I pulled out. They took it in their mouth and went away. They must have known we were hunting and was waiting for it. Samia continued, I buried the heart well, though. The wolves in this forest are very clever. However, if Diana knew that she might be able to keep it if she fed it well, she probably wouldn't even ask if it's okay to keep it. I'll have to keep her from hearing that by chance. Anyways, it would be fine if we find a stray child or one without parents. Samia and I communicated just with our eyes and nodded to each other. Chapter 77, Vacation and Delivery. The day after Diana emphasized how cute the baby wolf was during our dinner, we start walking inside the forest to pull up the big tree deer after we finished the morning routine. For quite a while now, Diana has been restless, probably because she's still wondering if there would be wolves today. In the previous world, when I saw a stray cat and its offspring, I look out for them when I passed by that area for a while, so I understand her feelings. However, when you look for it that way, it rarely appears. It was the same when I was searching for stray cats. As expected, we arrived at the lake without seeing the wolf family. Diana's spirit is now visibly low. Well, that's how a person learns. The wild boar that the Samia and Diana hunted before was also quite big, but this time, the deer is also quite big. I think it's about 2 m long. This one must have been hard to kill, right? It was thanks to Izu's specially made arrowhead. Oh, I think I also hit it precisely this time, so it was almost instantly killed. Oh, that's amazing. No, if it was a normal arrowhead, I think we would have gone back home just before the sun went down. Samia praised me in a roundabout way, so I sincerely thanked her and said, thank you. I asked Rike to cut down a larger tree this time while the three of us worked on pulling the deer up. At first it was easy because we had some buoyancy, but the closer we got closer to shore, the heavier it became. Samia's, compared to mine and Diana's, physical strength is much stronger than that of a normal human being, so we managed to pull it. But this weight makes me think that it would be a bit difficult if it's just two normal people. With this, combined with the wild boar meat, the amount of meat we have in stock will increase considerably. The four of us drag it up to a carrier made up of large wood. It also took more effort than usual to pull it this time. Of course, partly because of the size of the cart and also because of the weight of the deer itself, it took us longer than usual to pull it up. Hanging the deer back at home was also a challenge, but the rest of the work was much the same. I was able to handle it quickly with a sharp knife, but I think a big part of it is because I'm getting used to it. Well, I do it almost every week, that's why. I then took care of the meat and at Samia's request, I also took some tendon this time. The tendon will later be used as a bowstring. There is a limit to the amount of salt I can use, so I had to dry a lot of it this time. With meat hanging here and there, the smithy now looked like a butcher shop. I guess I really need to build a smokehouse and a storage room somewhere. Our lunch is sauteed venison. And since the whole day today is entirely a vacation, I also served wine, sake for Rike, even if it is still daytime. Even if this is a different world, the sake you drink from noon is really good. Originally, even in this world, it is normal to have sake from noon, although it rarely a substitute for water, so other than me, the three of them also enjoyed meat and sake. In the afternoon, we did whatever we want to do. Sammy attended to her bow, Reich worked on her craft, and Diana practiced her swordplay. I continued to work on the flower bed and vegetable garden that I had planned to build in the courtyard. Since it had been neglected for a while, the soil was still soft to a certain extent, but weeds were growing all over it. I guess I should plow it again. I took the hoe from the workshop and start plowing. It's a lot easier than before, so I don't need any help from the other three. In a sense, what I'm doing is similar to blacksmithing. But since I'm not selling anything, it's much easier. I don't mind moving my body, and I have to work in the fields once in a while too. I managed to finish plowing the courtyard by myself. The soil is quite soft now. It would be better to sift the soil, but I don't know how much work will I be able to do here in the future. I'll just be careful so as not to turn this place into a weed field again. For dinner, I tried making venison stewed in wine. I will be buying wine again tomorrow, so I used it without worrying about using it all. Things like this make me feel like I'm really on a vacation. We had a good time talking with each other that day, and I was able to get enough energy for the next day. The next day, it was the day we would go to the town to wholesale our goods, so we all loaded up the cart with the items and went through the forest. Of course, I did not forget to bring 2 gold coins with me. On the way through the forest, we occasionally encountered animals such as deer and other animals, but there was no danger in particular. Well, Diana was looking around restlessly, probably because she was looking for the baby wolf. We still remained alert as we go on main road, but as usual, the idyllic scenery spreads out. I checked with Samia and Diana from time to time, but everything seemed to be fine. We were then able to reach the town like that. The guard on duty today is the one we saw on our way home last time. I wonder what happened to Marius' colleague. I'm a little concerned because he also bought my products. I hope his case is not like what happened with Marius. With that in mind, I nodded to the guard, then we entered the town. When we arrived at Camilo's shop, we proceed with the usual procedure. However, today, I'll be bringing the mithril rapier myself, so I took it from the cart. Besides, I can't just leave it there. As we were waiting in the business meeting room, Camilo and Clark-san appeared again as usual. As soon as Camilo entered the room, he looked at what I held in my hand. "Oh, you finished it?" "Yeah, I guess so. It took a lot work though." I handed the rapier I brought to Camilo. Camilo pulls the rapier out of its scabbard as soon as he received it. The sword I forged has a faint glow in itself, and combined with the protective guard, it looks quite imposing. Camilo looked at the blade and nodded with satisfaction. "Indeed. As expected, asking you to do it is a right decision." "Is that so? Well, I'm glad you liked it." I tried not to show it on my face, but inwardly, I feel greatly relieved. "So, about that apothecary we talked about." "Oh yeah, what happened?" "We thought of a way to make sure that we'll get it." "Huh, you did it, huh?" "Well, it's more valuable than mithril, so it's going to take a little longer to complete the procedure." "I see. Well, it can't be helped then. Sorry for that." "It's not your fault, don't worry about it." I said so and took out the 2 gold coins from my pocket. "In any case, since I already brought my money with me, I'll pay you now." After saying that, I handed the 2 gold coins to Camilo, then he received it with a pleasant smile and said, "Thank you for your continuous patronage." Chapter 78, Client. Except for that special matter, the transaction proceeded as usual. Clark-san then leaves the room to tell the others what to load in our cart. "Ah, right. About those 5 halberds. What's the result? His Excellency, the Count, happily agreed to buy them. Oh, I see, I didn't really think that he wouldn't buy them. And then, there's also a request from His Excellency. Ho ho. What is it? He wants me to sell him 3 more of those halberds. He wants the guards at his mansion to have them. I see. Okay, I'll comply to it. If it's a request for a custom model, I'll have to ask the requester to come to my house in person, but if not, I'll simply accept the request. I'll make it when I got home before it slips out of my mind. After that, we talk about the happenings in the world as usual. So far, this is the only opportunity I have to hear about what's going on in the world. In my previous world, I was able to get some news about the disturbance on the other places on Earth via the internet. Given that, his brain sure is terrific as from him alone, I'm able to listen about the situation on the other region every once a week. I wonder if it would be better to secure some other means for this. Oh well, I'm not in a hurry, so I'll just explore slowly. There seems to be no talk of a major war somewhere, or a troop dispatch for a major subjugation operation, defeating a dragon or ogre, so I don't think there's any urgent need for me to make anything. Even if there is, whether to accept it or not is a different story. However, although this information is not confirmed yet, there are some fishy stories such as small-scale skirmish with monsters in remote areas, or scuffle over borders or water rights. Hopefully, none of those will be on a large scale. After leaving Camilo's store and as we pass by the entrance to the town, I noticed that the man standing guard was not yet equipped with a halberd. Well, training for that could take some time. I guess he couldn't distribute it right away. I just nodded at the guard again, then we passed through. Nothing major happened on the road or inside the forest. We were always vigilant on the surrounding, but as usual, the trip was quite peaceful. Just like that, we arrived home and then we bring our luggage inside the house. Today's purpose of going to the city is now completed. From the next day, we'll start doing some blacksmithing. We prepared some sheet metals and then I made the halberds while Reich and the others made the other weapons. I already made some halberd before, so I made another 3 without much effort. It took me about 2.5 days so far, and for today, which is the 3rd day, the remaining half day will be my free time. Since this will be given to the guards of the mansion, I will carve on the halberd during this free time. Perhaps it was because I had successfully strengthened the chisel, for me to be able to engrave on the mithril earlier. I was able to engrave with ease and the 3 halberds were completed. It's a bit unrefined to be used for ceremonies, but it is perfect enough for a mansion guard to have and use to protect the gate. Now that I have finished making the ordered items, from the next day, I will proceed with the production of items to be wholesaled to Camilo's store. Reich will continue making the general model ones, and Samia and Diana will go hunting. With us having enough meat, half of their purpose would be like a forest patrol. And, like that, the usual routine began. Samia and Diana will take a break from hunting tomorrow, so we will start making knives today. Reich and I heat up the sheet metal and then we start hitting them to make a knife. The smithy is filled with the sound of soft flames and regular hammering. In between, there are sizzling sounds when we are quenching and also the sharpening sounds as we sharpen the knives. After having our lunch, we continued until just before dusk. And then, someone came. The sound that had been echoing like some kind of music was mixed with another sound. It was the sound of the knock on the door of the workshop /sales room. It wasn't as unrestrained like the time Helen knocked on the door. I feel like the person knocking is timid. No, Compared to Helen's knock that made me think the door was about to break down, it is just much softer. Yes, I'm coming out now. Oop, I stood up and headed for the door. The knocking sound stopped, perhaps because the person knocking heard my voice. When I removed the bolt and opened the door, there is a woman standing there. She's taller than Reich, but a little shorter than Samia. Overall, she has a slender figure and she is dressed in travel clothes. Her fine silvery white hair was cut around the shoulders is striking, but the most eye-catching one is her ears. Thin, long and pointed ears. The knowledge I gained in my previous world and the knowledge I gained through the installed knowledge gave me the same answer. She is an elf. The woman elf spoke in a thin voice. This is Izu-san's workshop? Yes, this is my, Izu's workshop. Oh, thankfully. I came here to ask for a favor. I see. This is not a good place to talk, please come inside. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I led her inside and she also came in obediently. Reich stopped what she's doing and was watching the situation. I gestured an it's okay sign with my hand and asked her to bring some wine diluted with water. Please tell me what you came here for. The woman elf nods her head, she then unloads her luggage and sits in a chair, although it's a log, without making a sound. There was a simple table set up here and Reich gently placed the drink on it. The woman elf bowed lightly and thanked her. So, what can I do for you? This one. From the luggage she put down, she took out an item that was wrapped in a cloth and then she spread it on the table. I was so surprised when I saw what was wrapped inside. I want you to repair this. The woman said as she stared at me with a begging look. What was placed on the table was a mithril sword broken into several fragments. Chapter 79, Details of the Request. I see. I groaned at the sight of the fragments spread in front of me. So, what kind of repair do you want? Does she want it to be restored to its original state, which is now completely unrecognizable, or does she just want it to look the same? If it's the latter, I can't do it by tomorrow, but if it's the former, it's obvious that I'll have to take a lot of time doing it. I can't really do something like the restoration of fresco painting in my previous world. Of course I'd be more than happy if you can restore it to its original state. The woman client says with a voice that sounds like a ringing bell. But if that's not possible, what you did at your utmost would be fine. In other words, she wants me to put my best. This is not really a huge career, but it's true that my craftsman's blood was ignited when she said that. One more thing, did you come here alone? Yes, I came here by myself. Since Samia is not here, I don't really know the full details, but at least, I can't feel somebody else's presence around here, so I don't think she's lying. Since she met the condition for making an order from scratch, for now, it's fine, right? As I was considering whether or not to accept the request, the woman followed up quickly. I used my concealment magic along the way, is it not allowed? She asked. It seems that since I was still thinking about it, she thought it was better to say how she came here alone. So she has concealment magic, huh? No. It doesn't matter what means you used, as long as you can't come here alone, there will be no problem. I smiled and answered back. Well, I don't mean to be so strict either. The woman felt completely relieved when she heard what I had said. All right then, I'm accepting this request. Really? With a jolt, the woman suddenly stands up and asks in a loud voice. She's pretty loud now. Oh, I am sorry. She reverted back quickly and sat back in the chair dejectedly. It was only for a moment, but maybe she's back to herself now. Otherwise, she wouldn't want to come to such a place like this either. No, don't worry about it. So, by when should I complete it? I'll be grateful if you can finish it sooner. But, can I ask for it in about 2 weeks at the latest? I understand. 2 weeks. I think I can restore it to a good state then. I know this will inconvenience you, but, during the repair time, can I look at its condition every day? You mean? It's not that I don't trust Aizu-san, but if something happens, just in case. Ah, I see. Well, that's a given. It's a mithril sword after all, and it also seemed to have a long history. And in case I took this with me, that's unlikely of course, that would obviously be a bigger deal compared to looking at the fire on the firebed. I don't mind that. But, wouldn't it be too hard for you to go here every day? No, it's fine if you can lend me a part of your garden. She said that in a matter-of-factly manner. But even though it's near the house, will it be okay for a woman to sleep in the forest? There are no bandits here, but wolves and bears are common. There are some ferocious beasts around here, Eh? With the magical power around your house this strong, they probably won't come near, right? Eh? This is my first time hearing that. By the way, I don't know much about magic. This Black Forest is a land with a lot of magical power, but the magical power around this house is particularly strong, so even the trees are not growing that much around here. That's also why ordinary beasts do not approach. I was even impressed that you chose this area because you knew about it. No, I didn't know that at all. I didn't have a choice in the first place. But now I understand. No wonder the wolves seldom pass by. In other words, there's no such thing as a squirrel relaxing on a timber. I heard about this place because I saw the mithril rapier you forged. I was convinced that you have the skill to weave magical power neatly, but maybe that too. It's all thanks to my craftsman's intuition. I can't say it's due to my cheat. I can't say I'm hitting it knowingly either. When the woman heard that, her shoulders dropped more. I'm sorry. But now I got to know 2 things. This elf came here as she probably saw the rapier I forged during this couple of days after the delivery. Then, she went to look for Camilo and ask where I live. The next one is about the performance of the custom model I made here and the reason why it didn't work when I made the same thing in the capital. From what this person says, it seems that products made by incorporating magical power will be stronger. Since the magical power of this place is strong, it is possible to contain a lot of magical power. But when I'm in the capital, it can be inferred that the magical power there is too thin, so the knife can't contain enough magical power. Thinking about how it worked by mixing my custom-made knife which has enough magical power in it, the whole picture now fits together. Leaving that topic aside, even if it's okay with you, I can't leave a woman outside, you see. Fortunately, we have a guest room here. I know there may be some inconvenience for you, but please stay there. The woman who has been slumping her shoulders seemed to have recovered a little. Will that be okay? You have your 3 wives with you, right? There are indeed 3 women in my family, but I don't have a wife, so please don't hesitate. Camilo is the source of this information for sure. Let's see the next time we meet. I'll remember this. All right then, I'll take your words for it. The elf woman seemed a little confused, but she eventually bowed to thank me. Helen said she's going away for a while, so I don't think there will be any visitors for a while. This should be fine, I guess. Then at that point, with cling-clang sounds, the Naruko in the workshop rang. Samia and Diana are back. I looked at the door leading to the house, wondering how I can explain this to them. Chapter 80, Start of a Communal Life. As expected, Samia and Diana are back. Shortly after the Naruko rang, the door connecting the workshop and the house opened. I'm home, oh, a customer. Yeah, Diana asked. Speaking of that, I didn't get to hear the woman's name. My name is Lydie. The elf woman Lydie-san stood up and bowed as greeting. She came here to ask me to repair her sword. I added. Then. My name is Diana. I am staying at Izu's workshop, I'm pleased to be your acquaintance. Diana, still in her easy-to-move clothes, greeted her with a bow, like how the nobles do their greeting gracefully. Well, regardless of her outfit, she likes greeting in such way. And yeah, it's only natural because she is the count's daughter after all. I wonder if she's wary because she didn't include the Emerald House's name during her greeting though. But I think that the fact that she's from a high-ranking family has already been revealed through her greeting. I am called Samia. Samia is kind of weird. It's good if she remembers her. Shall I leave it to Diana? I am an apprentice at Izu's workshop, my name is Reik. With a small bow, Reik greeted her flawlessly. Reik may be the only one who acts per usual here. But as she looks very young, it feels very unbalanced. Anyway, these are the members of my Izu family. Well, Reik knows this already as she already heard about it but, this sword is so important that Lydie-san will stay with us during the repair period. I'm sorry for the troublesome request. When Lydie-san said that, Diana was full of joy. You're saying that I get to live with an elf? She's so thrilled. She even forgot to ask for her age first, she's far more curious than Samia. And no, it's only like she'll be supervising, it's a little different from living here. But she will be living together with us, right? Well, yeah. She'll be staying with us. Then, it's possible that she'll live with us for a while, right? Ari, you're already this elated so I wouldn't argue with you anymore. Well, yeah. Speaking of that, while I'm preparing our dinner, Diana and Reik, please prepare the guest room. Got it? Understood. Diana and Reik nodded and went inside the house. Samia, what did you guys catch today? Oh, some leaf birds. About 5 of them. As expected, since we still have enough meat on stock, they hunted for a smaller prey. Still, this will be convenient because each person can have 1 bird to fill their belly. Alright then, Samia, let's quickly pluck the feathers. Okay. Just as Samia and I were heading back to the house. We were stopped by that thin voice. Can I help too? Lydie-san offered. I'm grateful that she offered to help but still a guest. I used to handle birds in the village so it's fine. Is that so? It seems that the elves in this world usually eat meat. If she said that she only eats vegetables, I'll be troubled because we only have dried root vegetables available here. This is such a relief because we cannot simply get a supply of those from the depths of this forest. Fruits can be managed to some extent but even though she's a woman, it's not enough for an adult to eat just 1 meal. Should I buy more vegetables the next time I go to Camilo's shop? I'm grateful for that, it really helps. Can you please? Yes. When I said that, from the time she came here, Lydie-san smiled for the first time. Me, Samia, and Lydie-san plucked the feathers of the birds. I boil water in a large pot and dip the birds in it, then we plucked the feathers. It took a decent amount of them, and when it's finished, I cut the meat into parts using the knife. At that point, the guest room was also readied, so I asked Lidi-san to leave her luggage in the guest room. Other than Lidi-san, the others took care of the tools we used while I prepare the supper in the meantime. Lidi-san arrived today, so I made the meal a little extravagant with birds sauteed in wine sauce. We also serve wine, sake for Reich, and we all prayed, itadakimasu, and saying, cheers, we toast our cups. Lidi-san seemed confused at first, but I explained that we often talk about what happened that day and that it was our custom to have dinner, although it's the same for breakfast and lunch, in a lively atmosphere. She seemed to be convinced, and she joins in the conversation from time to time. She may have to spend about 2 weeks here, so I hope that she gets used in living here as much as possible. The next morning, I finished fetching water and cleaned myself up. It was still a little crowded with 5 people washing in the tub, but I don't feel as cramped as before. I wonder if the difference from when Helen was here was due to the difference in their body size. After we were done, we had our breakfast next. The menu consisted of the usual root vegetables and salted meat soup, and unfermented bread. Lidi-san didn't seem to have any complaints, and I secretly felt relieved. The most disheartening thing about a change in one's living conditions is that the food is not to your liking. Well, at least that's what I think. After our breakfast, I make a plan for the day's work. I asked Samia and Diana what they wanted to do, and they said they wanted to watch me repair the sword too. It's not like I'm going to reject them, so with Lidi-san's permission, I consented. Of course, Lidi-san will be watching me work too. In other words, today is the day when everyone observes me work. Well, there's nothing wrong with that either. I then lead everyone to the door of the workshop. Chapter 81, Repair. After entering the workshop, I start with the puzzle. The blade of a slightly broad sword is divided into 8 large and small pieces. The first step is to assemble this into its original shape. Of course, this work has nothing to do with my blacksmithing skills. The 5 of us, including Lidi-san, assembled the sword puzzle in a lively manner. Eventually, its shape will be assembled in this way. Since it is made of mithril, there are many parts that I do not have to worry about. If it is steel, the structure will change when it is reheated, so it is difficult to make adjustments after joining them. Such problem does not apply to mithril, however, joining them back itself is difficult in the first place, so it may be more difficult since it is mithril. Well, with my cheat, I can manage to make adjustments after joining them if it is steel. After all, through my cheat, I know where to readjust the steel. For the first step, I'll have to attach it from the part close to the handle of the blade, so I lit up a fire on the fire bed. Of course, it's through magic. By the way, Izu-san can use magic, right? Yesterday, you also magically ignited the furnace. Lidi-san, who was watching the scene, pointed that out. Well, it's like an established practice in this house. Even if I say that I can use it, I can only use it to ignite fire just like now and create light wind, you see. With that alone, it would have taken some training, you know. Also, it's quite strange to say that you know almost nothing about magic. Lidi-san said that with a broad smile, but her smiling face is quite scary. I guess she doesn't trust me at all when I said that I don't know much about magic. I was given a minimum magic and I didn't practice it or anything like that. Also, neither Reich and Diana, let alone Samia, had any knowledge about magic. If anything, as the daughter of the Count, Diana should be familiar about magic compared to the other two. Well, I can't tell if she's not that knowledgeable about it. No, wait. Diana, are you not familiar with magic? I didn't study that much in that aspect. Diana answers while averting her eyes. That is like cutting classes, huh? It's convenient if you can use it, but you don't have to worry that much if you won't be using it, so it's pretty simple to imagine that this boyish girl focused on swordsmanship instead. Is that so? I'm not really angry or something, so don't worry about it. Really? Diana is overtly relieved. With a sister like this, the Emerald house must have been a sunny family. So that's why I'm not familiar with it, and my family does not know much about it either. Well, I'm ashamed that I don't know much about it though. I see. Lidi-san ponders about it. Since the firebed has been sufficiently ignited, I grabbed the hilt side of the blade and the fragment closest to it with the pincers, put them in the firebed, and then I sent some wind to heat them. While pondering about it, Lidi-san watched me closely. Even if she earnestly talks to me about magic, I can't really give her further information other than, I'm just able to use it somehow, but I'm not aware of anything in particular. I used my cheat to determine the temperature at the last minute, then I take out the two parts at the same time. Since the temperature of the parts to be joined and its surroundings has risen, I ask Reich to help me in sticking them together, and then I swing the hammer down. If this is steel, I need some borax, but thankfully, with mithril, it seems that they will stick just like this. However, the temperature and the hammering are more rigorous than when I stretch things out normally. Compared to making new mithril armors, it's hard to find a blacksmith who can do this. After hitting it about 3 times, it has already deviated from the proper temperature. Since they barely stuck together, I put them in the firebed as it is. I then adjust the position of the charcoal so that only the joint part is heated, and then I send some wind in. This is hard, I muttered unintentionally. Do you think you can do it somehow? Lidi-san asked while squinting. I was so surprised by her voice coming from a close distance. Her face is actually quite close to me. Though I'm slightly flustered, I managed to reply to her. Well, it's pretty hard, but I think I can restore it. However, it will take a lot of time. I think 2 weeks is just about enough time. So it's really like that. Thank you very much. No, it's my job, you see. I look back at the firebed again. It's about to reach a good temperature. When it reached the perfect temperature, I take it out again and hit it with a hammer. I carefully did that so the glittering part doesn't fall apart, for it not to have any gaps. With my cheat, I can see that if I hit it 3 times, it will stick a little. I'd like to increase the pace a little if possible, but if this collapses, all my work will be in vain. I put it in the firebed again and start heating it up once more. Aizu-san can see the flow of magical power after all. This time, I heard Lidi-san's voice from a distance. Is that so? Yes. You're hitting it that way so that the flow doesn't break, right? No. I mean, how do I say this? I'm just trying to keep the glittering parts from falling apart, you see. That's it. With a whoosh, Lidi-san approached me. Most of my field of vision is occupied by her sapphire-colored eyes framed by long eyelashes. She's so close that I can feel her heavy nasal breathing on my skin. When I'm too pressured to move, Lidi-san straightened her posture. Aim. Do pardon me. Anyway, that's magical power. As expected, Aizu-san could detect it. It's just that you didn't know it. It looks like it. When I'm hitting steel, I can see other things like its unbalanced structure, but I'll keep that to myself. With this, one of my questions is answered. When I looked at Lidi-san, She has a friendly grin on her face, clearly in a good mood. I'm glad to hear that. I replied awkwardly. I took the sword out of the firebed and swung the hammer down once more. Chapter 82, Change of Plan. Just like that, it took me until afternoon to attach one side of the fragments together. I check the attached parts. There are glittering particle-like thing on it. Lidisan says that the magical power did not disintegrate, but it's cut off at the joint part. I traced it with my finger, but I didn't feel any seams. This means that this is not a seam on the material itself, but this part here is purely a magic break. It didn't feel like that, but it's possible that it wasn't completely joined on the inside. If she continuously wields it in this state, some problems will occur eventually. It's even been abused to the point of being turned into a few pieces, so it will surely be abused again once it is repaired. It's her weapon, and if something goes wrong with it, it's likely to be fatal. Lidisan, do you see this part here? I showed it to Lidisan while pointing to the part that has just been joined. Lidisan stared at it for a while, then before long. I see. The flow of magical power is cut off here. She muttered. Can't you see it, Reich? I passed the sword to Reich. Compared to Lidisan, Reich spent more time checking it. I can't see it somehow, but what stands out the most is the joint part that has been neatly attached. Then she returned the sword. I think it's good if she can't understand it somehow. I want her to grow this way. Needless to say, the other two is neither a blacksmith nor a magician. Even so, it seems that they can't see a little. Well, I'm not sure if it's because of the nature of Mithril or because the two of them sometimes help with the blacksmithing work. Lidisan, it's no good if it is in this state, isn't it? I don't think it's necessary to ask this, but it will be a different story if she says that as it was already broken once, it will only be used for ceremonies, so it's only necessary for it to have a good appearance. That's right. I hope it will be restored as it was before as much as possible. Right. I think of what to do with my arms crossed. If I hit it hard enough to a perfect level, it might stick together, but now I have to restore it back to the previous state. Well, if that's the case, I think it would be better to pile up the fragments on top of the remaining part of the base, like stacking and heating to make a forged mass, and then stretch it from there. I'm confident that I can get it back to its original shape. I'll be relying on my cheat, and with this kind of power, it will probably be all right. If that's the case, the question now is whether Lidisan will allow me to do that or not. The materials that make it up are exactly the same, but it will be almost as good as a new blade. Though the situation is the opposite of the ship of Theseus, the essence of the question is basically the same: is it really the same thing? However, even if she says just stick them together, there is a high possibility that even the smallest fragment will not be recovered when it breaks. In the first place, it is impossible to completely restore a weapon in the literal sense. When I think about it, it is not so different from sticking or reattaching. The point is that the appearance can't be completely restored, so the choice is either on its continuity as an object or on its performance. I explained such things to Lidisan. It is especially important to explain that the shape can't be completely restored. In short, you have two options: stick the fragments together or to restrike them. I guarantee that in both method, it will look exactly the same and it can't be repaired. Lidisan looks troubled as she listens to my words. Perhaps even if I try again, it will just be in time for 2 weeks. Unlike the time when I made the rapier, I can't make the shape as I like, and the width of the blade is wider this time than that time, so it will take that much time. However, I don't know what other problems will take up some time, so if I want to make it in time, it's best to start with it sooner. Of course, right now is the ideal time for that. That said, it's not something that can be decided thoughtlessly because it is not possible to say I can't do it after all right after restriking it. The sound of the charcoal burning softly on the firebed echoed inside the workplace. Only that sound tells us that time has never stopped. We quietly waited for Lida-san to make a decision. Lida-san was looking down all this time, but she soon raised her face. With her eyebrows furrowed, she has this serious look on her face. Please strike it again. There's no turning back, is it okay with you? Yes. Please do it. It will be better if I can use it as it was before. All right. Leave it to me. In contrast to Lida-san's rather distressed expression, I gave her a cheerful smile. Reik, Samia and Diana are also relieved. Well then, shall I resume? I tapped my cheeks and cheered out. If I can't do a job that is not rejected by Lida-san, the name of Izu's workshop will be tarnished. The shape of the sword itself is a standard longsword with no particular engraving on it. In order to keep track of the width, length and thickness of the blade, I brought in some timber from outside and assembled it into a sword puzzle with the same width, length, and thickness. I thought it would be easier to do it on this way. I put the handle of the sword, to which the fragments were attached, into the fireplace and then I heat it. When the temperature had risen to a point at which it could be processed, I hammered the pieces together to form a square. It feels even harder than the rapier. It is important if there are any gaps left inside, so I hammer it firmly and carefully to put them together. After several repetitions, from the middle of the sword, it looks like it has a small square board attached to it. I placed the pieces on the board to prevent it from collapsing. The pieces were then covered with straw rope and then I placed it in the firebed to heat it. Unlike with steel, it is a little easier as I don't have to worry about the oxide film at all. I then removed the mithril from the firebed when the outside of the mithril is slightly melted. I hammered the straw rope to remove any remaining embers and then I wait for a while to lower the temperature slightly. After that, I hit the mithril all together. As you might expect, it doesn't feel like they are all put together in one go. As I mentioned before, the response I felt is still hard. For several times, I repeated the process of heating, hammering, then stretching and folding it back together, heat it again, hammer it once more, and then stretch it and fold it again. However, even with the use of my cheat, I still couldn't get the feeling that it was completely put together. Before I know it, the sun is already tilting. This mithril work is going to take longer than I expected, and with that in mind, I told everyone I was done with today's work and then I started preparing our dinner. Chapter 83, Struggle. The next day, today's observer were only Reik and Lida-san. Samia and Diana went to gather some fruits and other things, saying they'll do it because there's an elf living with us. Even in this world, there's also an image like that, huh? Since Lida-san was eating meat normally last night, that image can't get out of my head somehow. The yet-to-be-assembled sword, or should I say, I plunged the lump of mithril into the firebed and heat it. When the time is right, I take it out and start hammering it. Somehow, I think that the response I felt in my hands is steadily getting harder. It feels like the parts has been brought together, but the glittering particles, the magical power itself, appears to be increasing little by little. Lida-san. Yes. What is it? Is there an increase in magical power on this? Yes, there's an increase to it. As expected of Izu-san, you are very skillful in incorporating magical power. Huh. so this is the case after all. I could see some particles like this even when I'm only using steel. Somehow I feel like it is getting harder. It. Asking you to do it is the correct choice after all. Lida-san nods, looking like she's the only one satisfied. There is no particular explanation either. I wonder if Lida-san is the type of person who thinks that the other person knows what she knows. In my previous world, there was also a person like that in the company that I worked in. In any case, not denying that it is getting harder, is it possible that mithril in this world becomes harder when it is incorporated with magical power? But when I made the rapier before, this didn't happen. For the time being, I throw that matter out of my mind and just think that it becomes hard when it contains magical power. I concentrate on using the power of the cheat and hit it carefully so that the forging process does not go wrong. I wasn't aware of it until now, but it seems that I'm pouring magical power at this point. Every time I swing the hammer down, the response when I hit the target is getting slightly heavier. This is quite a tough work because it's necessary to increase my force when I'm hammering it. I repeat this work several times. The response became heavier each time, but eventually, it became less heavy. Perhaps it reached the limit on magical power incorporation. I'm thankful for that. If it is heavier than this, it will be too difficult to process. In the end, it took me until afternoon to finish the forging process. There's going to be a lot of work after this. The three of us had a little late lunch and then I continued in the afternoon. It is necessary to get serious from here. I heat it on the fire bed once more and then I hammer it to stretch it. There is no difference in the process and contents from the case of steel. However, the difficulty level is significantly different. Just like the case when joining the fragments together, the temperature at which it can be processed while maintaining its magical power and the parts where it is okay to hammer it down are extremely severe. In addition, it is necessary to reheat it before it can be stretched that much. This is much harder than when I made the rapier. I can't help but complain. Is it difficult even for boss? Yeah. It's like being asked to sprint on a thin rope over a high place. I replied my honest feelings to Reich's question. I'm already at this state just with the mithril. I'm wondering what will happen when I got hold of the apothecary. When I looked back, Lida-san was looking at me with concern. I'm not sure if I could still be called a craftsman as I just said that in front of a client. It will take some time, but it will be restored as it was before. I said that to Lida-san with a smile as much as possible. Subsequently, Lida-san's expression appeared to be relieved. All right, let's do this. On this day, all I could do was extend it by about 1/3. It's still far from the shape of a sword. I wonder if this is a good learning for Reich. Tomorrow is the day that we will go to the town, so from the day after tomorrow until the sword is stretched, it might be better to have Reich do it. Speaking of which, we'll go to town again 2 weeks later. Though the risk avoidance is a little excessive, but I feel that it is just right. I still have a lot of money for our living, so we don't have to rush going there. Samia and Diana, who were out for gathering, picked a lot of blueberry-like fruits and leaves that smelled like peppermint. Before dinner, I put some sake in a small jar and soaked the well-washed blueberries there. Let's use some as sauce for today's dinner. I washed the leaves that smell like peppermint well and then I bite on it a little. The smell of the leaves is stronger than the peppermint in my previous world. But since it almost tastes like peppermint, I'll use some of these leaves and make mint tea tomorrow morning. Not to mention Lida-san, both the sauce for our dinner and the blueberries themselves were well received by everyone. When I told them that I soaked some blueberries in sake and that we should drink it together, they all looked at me with their eyes shining. All the girls, including Lidi-san, appear to be girls in this way. Let's just ignore the fact that Reich was jumping up and down. Well, that is the nature of dwarfs after all. Our dinner on this day was lively as we talked about the foods that were eaten in Lidi-san's village. As what she had said before, it seems that they usually eat birds and deer. However, she said that there is a fairly large field in her village, so they eat more root crops and leafy vegetables. In this way, she asserted that she doesn't have any pickiness on food, especially now that she went out of her village. Well, tomorrow is the day we'll go to the town. Furthermore, there will be work from the day after tomorrow, so I have to do my best. Chapter 84, Cuteness is Justice. The next morning. At breakfast, I added some mint tea to my usual menu. I put mint, a plant something like that, in boiling water. It tastes a bit grassy, but it's refreshing to the palate. It might be a good substitute for tea. Well, I'll think about it a little more. We're going to the town today to wholesale our items. What about you, Lidi-san? You can't come with us if you want. There's probably nothing to do if we leave her alone here. 1 man and 4 women, moreover, 3 of them is a beastman, a dwarf and an elf. It's a bit eye-catching, but I don't think it'll be a big deal as long as the Count is doing his best. What I'm worried about is the mithril sword. I'm not sure if it's safe to leave it behind. If Lidi-san wants to stay here to protect it, that will also be fine. There is nothing in particular here that would be a problem if it's stolen. I can't earn gold coins again. If I am to say it, the only thing I'd like to avoid being stolen are the pots and pans. Well, that's because we will have trouble eating if they were taken away. I'll go with you. The sword should be safe here. Okay, then please get ready. Yes, I understand. Lidi-san nodded and disappeared into the guest room. Surprisingly, she readily accepted to accompany us. I think there's still more to this place that I don't know, but Lidi-san knows. I guess we'll find out more about that in due course. I went into my room and began to prepare to leave. It's my and Reich's job to pull the cart. I can't just ask Lidi-san to do it either. She appeared to have good eyesight, so I decided to ask her to keep an eye on the surrounding area along with Samia and Diana. However, it might not be a good idea to continue pulling the cart by hand. I think we'll be carrying more luggage soon, and more importantly, since we stand out, it's better to have a little more mobility. So, although there is the problem on food, we should consider getting horses at some point. But that's a story for later. At the center of the greenish light, there's a dark vertical line. We proceed through the towering tree trunks. The leaves make some rustling noise and a pleasant breeze flows through the trees. I wonder if Lidi-san hears the voices of the trees like this. As one would expect from an elf race, they have too many visions. As usual, Diana is restlessly looking around. Well, I do understand her feelings. Then, Samia suddenly stopped in her track. Is it a dangerous one? I also stopped walking and asked Samia. No. Samia's ears are twitching and her nose made a sniffing movement. She's trying to focus her mind and discern what's out there. Ah, it's that ha. Samia's ears stopped twitching and her nose also stopped sniffing. Then Samia rummaged around her purse. She quickly took something out and threw it near a bush some distance away. When I looked closely, it was a dried meat. Immediately after, with rustling sounds, the bush shakes and a small shadow jumps out. It's a beast that looks like a brown puppy, a wolf cub in short. Diana cries out Kiara, but she quickly covered her mouth for it not to be startled. She's quite nimble. But now I understand, this one is indeed adorable. It's almost like a puppy. It is wagging its tail while it's eating the dried meat. Certainly, this is pretty cute. I too can't help but feel oh. Slap. Slap. Before I knew it, Diana was now next to me and she's hitting my shoulder. Of course, it hurts in general. I know how you feel, but please calm down. Eventually, the puppy, no, the wolf cub that has just finished eating, wags its tail and headed toward us. Wow! It made a sound. Then, another slap. 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 Slap, came, and shock runs over my shoulder. Oi, calm down. The little wolf was coming over here, but at the point when it is approaching near us, a big wolf appeared. Given the situation, I suppose that it is the mother. Then, the little wolf rushes toward the mother wolf and begins to play with her. It's a very gentle sight. Like it's calming it, the mother wolf nudges the wolf cub with her nose, and then the mother and cub went behind the bushes. I see. As Samia had said before, that one is definitely cute. It. Diana shouts so loudly that she's almost roaring. I feel that my ears hurt. It's definitely cute enough that I understand why you want to look for it. It. Told you. But it would be a pity if we separate it from its mother, you know. Oh, that's, yeah. Diana's shoulders slumped a little. Sometimes, there are those who have been abandoned by its parents or the ones who strayed from the group. If that is the case, it should be fine. Samia let it out. Diana, who did not miss that, becomes lively again with a great momentum. That's right. Yosh, if there is a cub that is like that, I have to help it right away. Her nasal breathing becomes heavy and she starts clenching her fists as she hardens her resolve. Me, Reich and Lidisan look at each other and sighed involuntarily. Chapter 85, Business Talk. There was such big happening along the way, but we passed through the forest without any other problem. And then we went out to the main road where a danger different from when we're in the forest awaits. Since we stand out too much, we need to be more vigilant than when we are inside the forest. Samia is on full alert with all her 5 senses active. Diana too, she looks at the surroundings differently compared to a while ago. Lidisan is also on alert as she looks a little farther away. As expected, if there are more lookouts, you will feel more secure. Although there was a trouble before, we didn't have any major problem on the main road, probably because the Imerl family governed the area well. Diana would feel uneasy if something happened here, and I hope that nothing really happens, no matter how small it is. The person guarding at the entrance of the town today was not the one I'm acquainted with. The product he has is still a short spear, not the halberd. I recognize this person's face a little though. Let's ask him then. Hi. Oh, it's you guys. Hello. The guard is amiable, but he looks at Lidisan while he replies to my greeting. I'm sorry to bother you, but did the person who was close to Marius' son move somewhere else? He also bought my sword and I was wondering what has happened to it, you see. HN. He was called by Marius, so he went to the capital. I see. That's why I didn't see him around here. Thank you. I'll ask about him in case I go to the capital again. Yeah, please do that. With that said, we slightly bowed to him and then we pass by. According to the current guard, that person was called by the count. I guess it can't be considered as a promotion. However, do the town guards here still refer to him as Marius? It's a little difficult to decide whether this should be taken as loose discipline or a sign of their close relationship for the time he was one of the guards. We passed through the lively street crowded with a lot of people. As expected, Lydisan, as an elf, draws attention. Whether because it's unusual to see an elf, there are some who sometimes do not try to hide their unscrupulous gaze. However, strangely enough, no one tries to mess with us. Well, doing devious things can get you in trouble whether it is true or not. Coupled with its occurrence, it is widely believed, at least among the public, including her habit of thinking that the other person knows what she knows, she is comparatively a normal person, though she's an elf. However, wouldn't she feel uneasy having this much attention? That's all I was worried about. Eventually, we arrived at Camilo's shop. We'll be staying inside from here so Lydisan will feel a little more relaxed. As usual, we put the cart in the warehouse and head to the business meeting room. Camilo arrived a little longer than usual today. Oh, it looks like you're busy. Well, somewhat I guess. Come to think of it, whenever we come here, Camilo personally comes to meet us. Is it because he concentrates more on managing people and the likes so he has some time? Well, even if that's the case, there must be times when he is busy with meetings and other things. When I asked about that, the timing of your arrival is almost fixed, so I made a room on my schedule around that time. What if I didn't come? Well, I got other things to do so it won't be a problem. I see. It wouldn't be good if I was being a burden, so I was relieved because it didn't seem like that. Then, about today's transaction. Let's discuss this one first. After Camilo gazed at Clark-san placed the cloth wrap he had in his hand on the table. It is of a decent size. After Clark-san unwraps it, an oar with blue stripes was revealed before us. This is... Yeah, it's a poitakera. So this is a poitakera, huh? It has a good luster on it. Right now I'll be focusing on mithril, so it will be a while before I actually deal with it. I'm sorry for the trouble. Clark-san wrapped it again, then I receive it after. I've been properly paid for it, so you don't have to worry about it. Camilo said that with a laugh. Other things that you need as per usual? Yeah. We have fewer items for delivery this time though. Do tell me if you need more. I'll pay it in money. Judging from the transactions so far, even with this volume of delivery, it should be enough to cover the cost of the items. However, some products may increase in price. I've brought some money with me just in case. It would be fine if you have as much as half of last week's delivery volume. If you don't have enough, I'll just deduct it to the next delivery so you don't need to pay me money. Sorry for the trouble, that helps. By the way, I'm working on a custom order right now, so I'm not going to come here next week. Oh, I see. I understand. Just have more items for delivery by then. Yeah, thank you. As you have said a while ago, if it's not enough, please deduct it from the next delivery. Haha, I'll do that even if you did not tell me. In this way, this business talk was also successfully completed. I listened as Camilo told me the situation in the capital and in some other places. Marius seems to be doing well. Diana appeared to be relieved upon hearing that. However, it seems that the movement of monsters in the remote areas become active recently, and it is said that a subjugation army may be formed. It seems that the lie about the monsters acting up that Carl said during the conflict in the Immerl family has become a reality. This is serious. In that case, It is necessary to deliver the items on time in order to make Camilo profit. We should prepare to increase our production as much as possible. After exchanging some idle talk, we then left Camilo's store. Chapter 86, Additional Facility. Nothing in particular happened from the time we left Camilo's shop to the time we got home. Well, except that Lydia-san attracted the attention of the people in the town. She's a beautiful woman to begin with. I'm not sure if it's because she's an elf though. And yeah, the worst thing that could have happened is if Lydia-san gets into trouble, so I was relieved that it didn't happen. When we got home, all of us carried the luggage inside. The apothecary was also placed inside the workshop. Lydia-san also helped in carrying some light things like root vegetables inside the house. After bringing the things inside, we'll have a free time as per usual. Well, even if I say that today is a time off, going to the city kind of feel like we are still doing some work. I'm currently working on a custom-made order, but I already notified Lydia-san about this beforehand. Thus, I decided to spend the day like usual. I thought about dealing with the apothecary, but since it is a blacksmithing job, I decided to put it off and make something I wanted to do in the workshop. I went to the workshop and collected the leftover wood from making the scabbard. Some are reasonably sized, which seems to be enough for what I wanted to make. Leaving it to the sharpness of the knife, I cut out the parts from the wood. This sharpness was also related to magical power. From now on, I'll have to be more conscious of this when I make custom orders. It took a long time to cut them out because I cut it in a way that they could be assembled only by fitting them together, without using any nails. Well, I still managed to secure some time for assembly. I then started assembling it right after. Eventually, though it was weird in a way, I completed something like a miniature house. It is palm-sized. I'm not that familiar with the format, so I just made it in a way that it would look like a house. However, I don't think there's something in this world that would settle on it, at least there's nothing that corresponds to that in my installed knowledge. Anyway, this should be good for the time being. I then make a shelf out of a piece of wood, attach it to the wall, and place the miniature house, something like it, on top of it. A simple kamidana was then completed. As a former Japanese, I felt uncomfortable because there was no kamidana in this place. That's the reason why I made one. It may be better to have it placed inside the house, but personally, I feel that it's more appropriate to put it in a workshop like this. TLYN, Kamidana, Household Altar. I don't know if there's a God in this world or none, but I hope they will magnanimously look after this. I'm not sure if there is a God in this world that would settle inside it though. From the kitchen, I fill a small plate and a small cup with salt and water respectively. I then put them on the shelf together. I'll have to add changing its contents to my morning routine. After I made a simple bow to the altar, I clapped my hands and got ready to prepare our dinner. The next morning, after I fetched water, I first took the water and salt in the kamidana and replaced them with a new one. It's a waste to throw them away, so I used it for making the soup for breakfast. The rest of the activities did not change that much until we finished our breakfast. After breakfast, I discussed the tasks for today. Naturally, I will continue to work on the mithril sword. However, from today, I'll have Reik, Samia, and Diana make the general models for a while. We will be delivering the items 2 weeks later, but we need a good number of items for delivery. Lydia-san decided to study my work by observation, or should I say she'll be watching me. Anyway, it's decided that she'll do something like that. When I entered the workshop, I first went in front of the kamidana. I bowed to it 2 times, clapped twice, and then I bowed 1 more time. I prayed for the safety of today's work. I don't know if there is someone who will receive this prayer, but I feel that it can smoothly soothe my heart and mind if I have something like this. With this alone, it's worth making this Kamidana. As I am worshipping, something like that, Reich talks to me. Boss, what are you doing now? I'm praying to God. It's a ritual that is passed down to my family in the north. To that weird house-like structure. That's right. Well, it's like a simple altar that's being set up inside the house. Hey, there is a custom like that in the north, huh? I guess my family is the only one doing that. I don't know how effective it is either. As Reich's curiosity has been piqued, I readily answered her questions. Does Izu-san have a family name? Lida-san, who was listening to our conversation, also asked a question. Speaking of which, I didn't tell her that, huh? Yes, I do have one. However, as you can see, I have a special circumstance, so I am living in this place. I see. So that was why you don't usually use your family name. Yeah, it is as what you have said. Lida-san murmured and nods her head, indicating her agreement. I think she has this personality that she can't help but to make sure to confirm what's on her mind. Boss, can we also do what you did earlier? HN. Yeah. I don't mind. It's not like it's a secret. Reich asked hesitantly, but I gladly agreed. Well, it's better to do this with the whole family. Can I join as well? Lida-san also asked. I agreed, of course. I taught the 4 of them the 2 bows, 2 claps, and a 3rd bow, like I did earlier. A beastman, a dwarf, a human, and an elf. The fact that people of different races and origins is doing the same thing like this, just like when we said it today Kimaju, really strikes home. In this way, one more usual was added to our family. Chapter 87, Rehitting. After worshipping together, we start working. I lit a fire on the firebed, then I send in some wind to raise the temperature. When the temperature has risen, I put the mithril sword inside the fire to heat it. Apart from that, I also lit the fire on the furnace. This one is to be used by Reich and the others when they work. When the temperature of mithril has risen just above the workable temperature, I take it out and hit it with a hammer. A clear glass-like sound echoes in the smithy, glittering lights also dances around it. I hammer it quickly so that I can hit it as many times as possible. I did not mean to say that I'm just hitting it as fast as I can though. If my hand misses even a little, the magical power woven in will be lost. So I'm still careful for that not to happen. I hit it quickly and carefully at the same time. And, for sure, only a limited number of people can handle this. This is especially true for blacksmiths, most of whom don't understand magic. I'm still doubtful even if I was told that I really understood magical power. Well, there's no doubt that I can see the flow of magical power though. In this world where the number of people who can use magic is quite limited, those who can properly see the flow of magical power become a magician instead of becoming a blacksmith. With that alone, they can live tranquilly. As a result, only few blacksmiths can properly handle a mithril. The mithril, which is probably filled to almost the limit of its magical power capacity, has a clear sound, but it felt very heavy when I hammer it and it does not stretch well. Within only a few strikes, it is already out of the workable temperature. I then put the sword back into the fire, heat it, remove it, and hammer it again. The glass-like sound that comes as I'm hitting the mithril and the metallic sound that was produced as Reich hits a sword to make a general model echo inside the workplace. Besides that, Samia and Diana are making molds and they pour the iron melted in the furnace to it. Fire, wind, hammer, and the people here, makes their own sounds as each of us do our part of work. For me, this room is very comfortable. That being said, the progress on my mithril work is very poor. Still, I feel relieved knowing that I'll be able to meet the 2-week deadline. In the end, for this day, I stretched it to half of the remaining 2/3, in other words, I was able to stretch it to the point where only 1/3 is left. Perhaps this is still quite fast compared to a normal blacksmith, however, the progress is slower than the usual steel sword, which is quite stressful. The saving grace is the beautiful sound that comes when I hit it. To be honest, without it, my progress would have been even slower. However, considering the apothecary and other unseen ores I'll encounter in the future, I can't be tired out re-hitting mithril. I have to get through this and be more confident. The next day. Considering the progress of yesterday, I'll also keep on hitting mithril all day long today. For the newly added routine, I did not forget to exchange the water and salt in the Kamidana and do the worship. Reich and the others will still make the general model ones today. Lydia-san will observe my work as usual. That said, she's just watching me hit and stretch mithril with a hammer all day long. Lydia-san. What is it? After I put the mithril in the fire bed, I called her while I'm heating it. Lydia-san replied with a cool and clear voice as usual. Is it fun to watch? Yes, it is. If it were a normal work, I might find it boring at some point after watching it for a whole day, but Aizu-san's work is anything but normal. Ah, thank you. I thanked her, judging that she was probably complimenting me. Well, it's not really normal. Besides, elves have a long lifespan, we feel one day shorter than a human day. She's quite an intellectual, but when I think of her laid-back atmosphere, I realized that she felt time differently. Wait, if that's the case, then 5 years of Samia's life must have been quite long. Unfortunately, even if I got a cheat, it's a feeling that I, as a human being, will never understand. The sound is pleasing too. There was no blacksmith in my village or in any other village that could make such beautiful sound. Does the sound differ depending on the person who wields the hammer? Yes. The more efficiently you put magic into it, the mithril will make better sound. I don't think there are many elven blacksmiths who can't do it at Aizu-san's level. I see. I pretended not to notice Reich nodding at the corner of my field of view as I hit the heated mithril with a hammer. The mithril made a beautiful sound as I hammered it. Well, in the case of the sound we heard so far, it was also affected by the degree of mithril refinement. Really? Yes. It's not applicable to steel, but the purer the mithril becomes, the easier it is to store magical power on it, and the sound when it is hit also becomes more beautiful. Ha ha, I see. I make a sound that seems to be hard to make. Now I understand why it feels different than when I hit the mithril rapier before. The mithril at that time had a lower degree of refinement than this one. In other words, it probably had more impurities. It's not so far-fetched to think that this meant that less magic power was put into it, so less effort was needed in hammering it. Let's find a way to increase the degree of refinement in the future. I thought so to myself while listening to the beautiful glass-like sound. Chapter 88, Conversation about the Residents. In the end, it took me a total of 3 days to stretch the mithril. Of course, as it is now, it is just a stick with an elaborate grip. Thus, from tomorrow, it will be necessary for me to work on forming its shape. I'll end it here for today. You can't do a good job by cramming and staying up all night. That's what the anime movie I liked in my previous world said. The next morning, when I returned after fetching water, Lida-san was outside the house and she had her hands on the trunk of a tree. Good morning. It's dangerous to go outside, that's basically the usual case, right? I was going to say it was dangerous, but then I remembered that she said that it was not the case, so I rephrased it. Yes. With this amount of magical power, no ordinary beast would come near here. Lida-san replied in a clear, ringing bell-like voice. Do you mean that they can't sense danger or something? That's right. There are many monsters in places with strong magical power after all. I got startled hearing that. Based from what you had said, since this area has a lot of magical power, is it possible that monsters would suddenly spring up? No, that's rarely the case. In some cases, some beasts in this forest may become a monster though. However, its nature is basically the same as the original. Although in rare cases, there are also those that become ferocious. That's a worrisome story. A beast that turned into a monster will surely come here regardless of how strong or weak its magical power is. Wait, perhaps the bear that I killed before ended up turning into a monster. It's possible to say that when it injured Samia, it feels like it was a long time ago. The bear hasn't transformed to that yet, but after that, it turned into a monster. The thing that I sensed to be dangerous was most likely that. It's unknown what kind of monster it will end up turning into. I'm glad I was able to get rid of it early. Wait a minute. So, keeping an animal here is. I usually wouldn't recommend it. However, when I saw the training that Izu-san and Diana-san are doing together, it seems that both of you have great swordsmanship. Thus, if there was something like that happening by any chance, it's good to say that you guys can handle it. And as I had said before, their nature to the original beast is not that different, so those clever wolves basically remained smart. The real worst case scenario is that it will be a very sad goodbye. That will be painful then. Some people think it is okay because it rarely happens. That it's all up to fate. I'm relieved to know that it would be okay if I do keep a horse here though. Well, inside a cave, magical power stagnates, so monsters are born from there. And such monsters, on the other hand, are basically ferocious. The cause for that is unknown though. Without any hesitation, Lida-san teaches me the mechanism of the birth of monsters. So that's the case, huh? I haven't heard from Samia or Diana that there was a cave near here. Well, in case we find one, we should stay away from it. By the way, what did you do when you went out? After contemplating for a while, I asked that. When I did so, Lida-san narrowed her eyes. I hope you don't mind me asking. Well, if there's a problem, you can't just forget about what I asked. I took Lida-san's reaction as a refusal, so I hurriedly tried to take back what I had just said. No, it's okay. I just took in some magical power. Magical power? Yes. Foods are needed for meals, but for ourselves, we also need magical power. I see. So that is why we don't see many of them in the town, huh? Now that I think about it, it's only natural that there were no elves in the town because they needed magic, but they can't get it in the town or in the capital. Asking more than this would be insensitive of me, so I nodded my head and head back to the house, carrying the jar of water that I had fetched. Izu-san. Lida-san calls out to me. You won't ask questions more than that. Her face and voice were almost emotionless. I answered. I'm a man myself, and I'm interested in a beautiful woman like Lida-san, but I just know that there are many things that are better left unsaid. Then, with a deliberate grin, I entered the house. I guess I was being a little too cool. For today's work, I will continue to make the mithril sword while Reich and others will continue to make general models. Lida-san is my observer or lookout. Well, it's something like that. Up until yesterday, I could just focus on stretching it, but from today, I can't do that. It is necessary to compare with the wooden pattern that I took before I started hitting it again. Even though I have a cheat, my work progress is naturally slow. Would it be possible to work with less stress? That will be the key to the future. As usual, after I worshipped in front of the Kamidana, I set the fire in the fire bed and the furnace, and then we start working. After heating the mithril, I took it out and I placed it on the anvil. I then hammer it while looking at the wooden mold I placed next to it for reference. I used my cheat to figure out where to hammer. With each swing of the hammer, a clear sound and beautiful sparks appear in the forge. Lida-san is watching me work right next to me, but she is a bit closer today. It's clear that she's getting closer because she's concerned about it since the work has finally entered the final stage. Well, that's fine with me. With that in mind, I once again plunged the mithril sword into the fire bed. Chapter 89, Work is progressing. I heat the mithril sword and hit it with a hammer to slightly change its shape. Basically, this is repeated many times. I compare it with the shape in the mold before I started hammering. I fully utilize my cheat to control the hammer so that it takes that shape. The clear sound of the hammer echoed inside the workshop all day long today. On this day, I was able to complete about 1/3 of the process of shaping the sword. I think it now looks like a sword a little. It will take another 3 days, I guess. This means that it will take another 3 days to shape it, and then 3 or 4 days to finish it. With this, I'll be able to meet the 2-week deadline with a bit of time to spare. However, I don't think I'll be able to make the wholesale products in time. It's a good thing that I skipped 1 week of delivery. At this pace, it would be possible to take a day off in between. The next day, when I came back after fetching water, Liddy was not there. During our breakfast, I asked her about that in a way that the other 3 would not understand. In summary, she replied that it doesn't have to be every day. Well, otherwise it will be difficult to replenish the magical power until she got here. I guess that makes sense. Today's work is basically the same as yesterday. I did what I had done yesterday morning and then I start working for the day's quota. The sound of fire and hammer echoes inside the workplace. Well, when they work, Reich, Samia, and Diana are not really working silently. They talk about something as they do their job. Sometimes, Reich is quiet when she has to concentrate, and except for that, they talk about our everyday life here. Like when we do repairs, and they also talk about Diana's life in the capital. That does not interrupt my concentration, so I didn't say anything about it in particular. Well, since I can't work while playing music on my smartphone like what I used to do in the previous world, this is like an alternative to a radio. As for me, I also talk to Lida-san from time to time. Our topic is mostly about food. When I talk, Lida-san either answers or nods. Today, I asked her something that has been bothering me for a long time. If it's all right with you, can you answer my question? Okay. While the reddish and hot mithril was reflected in her green eyes, Lida-san replied to show that she's paying attention to me. Why did this break in the first place? Even with my cheat, it is something difficult to make. It is not that hard to see that it would have been a considerable work from the start. And if it indeed is, it wouldn't be something that would break that easily. Thus I was wondering what would be the cause for it to be broken into pieces of various sizes. What did she do for such sharp mithril sword to break? If I can't replicate it, I would like to reproduce the process and make something that does not break. It was a question that was purely out of my interest as a craftsman. Lidi-san looks down a little. Maybe she's wondering if she should answer. After a while, she stared at me. I can't give you too many details because it's related to magic. However, by following certain procedures, mithril weapons can be used for magic by drawing out the magic power on it. That's why, just in case of emergency, this sword was kept in the village as a prized possession. Something happened in the village so I had to use it, but once you use it beyond the limit it could take, it would break her. When I finished it, Lydie nodded. I see, that's why she wanted to restore it, and that's also why she seek out someone who is good at weaving magical power. Unless you are a human being, well, either for an elf or a dwarf, who can't put in more than a certain amount of magical power into it, it cannot fulfill the role of a magical battery. On the other hand, regardless whether it could fulfill the role of a battery, it is probably an important cultural property of the village, so it is not possible to leave it unrepaired. I see. While saying that, I swing the hammer down toward Mithril, and then I put it back on the fire bed. I was a little off the mark. We can't break it in the way that Lidi-san had just said. Well, there is no way to prevent it from breaking in the first place. It's like Prince Rupert's drop. We can't hit the tadpole's head, but we can't break the tail. Furthermore, breaking the tail means that there is no way to prevent the whole thing from breaking. That doesn't mean that what we talked was meaningless though. I can't say that I even got a good harvest. She omitted the method of drawing out the magical power on it. Well, it is probably a secret of their village or their race per special edition, but the fact that mithril can be used as a magical battery is a useful enough information. And as for the event that happened in her village, Lidi-san did not try to give the specific details. I could easily see that it was not something that I should force out of her, so I said, I understand it now. Thank you very much. I thanked her and decided not to talk about it anymore. The next day, the general shape was finally completed. Of course, compared to the wooden model, there were still some minor discrepancies. However, it was almost as good as the original. All that remains is to see how far I can take this thing to perfection. I then tapped my face with both of my hands to brace myself even further. Chapter 90, Start Finishing. From today, I will finally start finishing it. Before I start working, I look at the sword carefully to see what needs to be fixed. It now looks like a sword compared to how it was at the beginning. I checked it several times and there seems to be no particular loss of magic power. I need to keep it in this state for the final touches. I then placed the sword in the fire bed and use my cheat to adjust the placement of the charcoals and the way the wind is blowing so that only the area to be processed is heated. When it reaches a workable temperature, I take it out and hit it with a hammer. I hammered it as usual and compare it with the wooden pattern to make sure it is the same. I did this repeatedly. Samia and Diana are out hunting today. So the conversation during work is between me, Reik, and Lidi-san. While I'm comparing the sword to the wooden pattern, Reik and Lidi-san talk to each other. Reik's work for today is to make general model knives. At first, the conversation between the two of them was awkward, but it seems that they are beginning to talk smoothly now, probably because they have been living together for about a week. I'm not good at grasping the flow of magical power like Boss. I heard that many dwarfs are better at grasping the state of the ore itself than magical power. What should I do to become like boss even a little? It appears that he is far beyond the capability of a normal person, so it may be difficult to aim for him. I know that. But having some tips would be nice. Well then, I wouldn't be here for a long time, but let's train during that time. Is it really okay? No, please do. Reich bowed and Lida-san smiled, looking a little embarrassed. I had that look before too. With the knowledge from my previous world, dwarfs and elves are two races that are often in conflict. It's good that they become friends, with one teaching and the other being taught. In this way, while Reich is working, Lida-san taught her about magical power for a while. She stopped supervising my work saying, I already know Aizu-san's skill, so I know it will be fine. However, even after saying that, she sometimes glanced at this side. It appears that at the very least, she is checking my work. If that's the case, I can't be confident in my work. It would be troublesome if after working to a certain extent, I will be told that this is different and that is different. How many times have I been pushing that down my throat in the previous world? Sigh, I'll just be sad, so let's stop here. It's just a matter of having Lida-san check it from time to time. On this day, I was able to finish the work with the progress I had planned. Reich's progress, however, was not that good, as she had to practice watching the magic power. The next delivery is still a long way off and we have not guaranteed the amount to be delivered in the first place, so it's okay. What is more important is for Reich to grow and be able to make high-end models. If she can't do so, it will be possible to divide the work. For example, I will mass-produce the general models with priority on speed, and Reich on the other hand can make high-end model ones. In this way, I hope she will gradually gain confidence that she can return to her parents' workshop. After cleaning up the workshop, Samia and Diana were also back. They didn't have anything in particular with them, so they must have caught a big one. When I asked them, they replied that they killed a big boar. It seems that Diana has been playing the beta role again today. It would be better for them to be able to switch roles or play the same role so that they have more options. It seems that the two of them have been practicing archery in their free time, so I'll have to make a bow for Diana too. Well, on the side note, Diana was lamenting that she didn't see the baby wolf. The next morning, the five of us left the house together. Of course, we are not going to the town, but to collect the boar. Lida-san could have stayed at home, but she insisted on coming with us, so we decided to let her go with us. There's nothing strange about it though. Samia and Diana take the lead. Lida-san and Reich, who gives off a max dwarf impression as she holds an axe, were in the middle. I am at the rear, keeping an eye out just in case. Shortly after, we arrived at the place where they sank the boar. A rather large boar is sunk there. Me, Samia and Diana pull it up to the shore of the lake, while Reich cuts down a tree to make a carrier. Reich alone was more than enough to cut down the tree, so I asked Lida-san to help in tying up the rope. Thanks to her, the carrier was ready by the time we pulled it up. We pulled the boar up and fixed it on the carrier, and after a short rest, we took the boar home. I pondered if I should ask Lida-san to help us in pulling the boar, but she is not that strong, so I decided not to. And yeah, it's easy to overlook it, but she is still a guest. When we got home, we started to skin and dismantle it into meat. Other than Lida-san, we all have a custom-made knife, so except for her, I work with the others in consideration of work efficiency. If we split up the work, the meat would be ready in no time. Lida-san doesn't seem to have any particular feeling of repulsion in this kind of work, so it seems that the same thing is being done in the elf village. They seem to live a life that's basically the same with the humans, except that they live in areas with abundant magical power, including forests, out of necessity. While we were working, I asked Rike about that too, and she said that most dwarfs are blacksmiths by trade, so they live in areas close to mines and the like. It appears that their lives are not all that different from humans either. Unlike elves, they don't need magical power, so there are some oddballs who occasionally go into town to start a business or start a journey as apprentices. I wonder what about the other races, such as the lizardmen I saw in the capital. I'd like to know about them if they ever come as guests. With that in mind, I returned to the house to clean up and prepare lunch. Chapter 91, please look at it. After dividing the boar meat into those that will be preserved and those that will be consumed soon, I start preparing our lunch. I sauteed it in blueberry sauce with a little brandy that has blueberries, although to be exact, something like it, soaked in it. It seems to be well liked as usual. After lunch, I started the afternoon's work. Naturally, I will still be finishing up the mithril sword, Rike will be working on the knife, and Lidisan on the other hand is working on her magic training while checking on me from time to time. Samia and Diana are practicing archery in the garden. I put the sword, which is already very close to its wooden form, in the fire bed to heat it. Of course, I fully utilized my cheat. When it's hot enough, I take it out, hammer it a few times to change its shape a little and compare it to the wooden pattern to make sure it's exactly as I want it to. I'm going to do this repeatedly today. It's a steady process, so it seems like I'm doing exactly the same thing. When I compare it with the wooden pattern, I feel that it's getting closer to it, albeit little by little. When the mithril is out of the best temperature range that can be processed, I heat it again. In the meantime, glancing at Rike and Lidisan, it seems that they are also improving little by little. It seems that the knife that Rike is hitting is now somehow glittering, that means that the magical power is increasing. Of course, that's just how it looks, and I'll have to take a closer look at it later to see how it really is. If Rike continues to improve and is able to put in a lot of magic power, the high-end model will have two outcomes. A general model is one that has only ordinary processing and little magic, while a high-end model is one that has been processed to the fullest extent, or one that has ordinary processing but a lot of magic. Special orders are both. However, if possible, I would like Rike to be able to make a high-end model that uses only the material itself and process it to the maximum. This is because it is more likely to contain magic, and it is a technique that can be applied in areas where magic is scarce. In fact, if I'm to say it, the heirloom sword of the Emerl family that I forged was a steel sword of considerable prowess even before it was turned into magical power. I want her to aim for that first, and then think about taking it one step further after that. But I'm too much of a cheat to be able to teach her anything concrete. While Lidisan is still here, I'll let her learn what she can learn, and I'll take care of getting the materials for her to use afterwards. I thought about this while I was doing the whole process. If Samia were here, she might say, "Izu is thinking so seriously again." I chuckled to myself and decided to concentrate on my work. The next day, me, Rike, and Lidisan did the same thing. Samia and Diana are going to gather some stuff, so I asked them to bring something for me as well. We all bowed and clapped to the Kamidana and prayed for safety during the work and gathering. Now then, let's start today's work. The work itself is exactly the same as yesterday. The scene and sounds are the same. Lidisan teaches Rike about magic. Lidisan is a bit taller and Rike is shorter. At first glance, it looks like a mother teaching her daughter. The kind of happiness that I couldn't find in my previous world, I guess I can't say I found it in this one. I felt as if my heart, which had been frozen to keep concentrating on the same work for a while now, was being loosened. With this day's work, I could almost say that the work is now almost complete. Even when I compared it with the wooden pattern, there is almost no difference. It could be said to be completed, but if I use the cheat function, I can clearly see that it is not yet complete. I'll finish it by tomorrow. While I was cleaning up the workshop, Samia and Diana came back. Today's harvest included raspberries, peaches and... Did you pick the one I asked for? Yeah, was this all right? Yes, thank you. The mint that Samia has picked up this time is a whole strain of mint. I'll soak it in the water for today and plant it in the courtyard the day after tomorrow. If it is the same as mint, it should be able to thrive on its own. It was hydroponically cultivated in the previous world and it even overgrown. I'll think about it if it did not grow. If I can't grow it, I'll be looking forward to drinking mint tea. The next day. I will be putting the final touches on my work today, so the other four decided to stop their own work to observe me work. We all paid our respects to the Kamidana. We bowed and clapped our hands in prayer for the safety of the work and the completion of today's work. I feel a sudden change in me. With this mindset, I felt that lighting the fire bed, which I had been doing until now, was somewhat like a ritual. It's been a little past noon, and there's almost nothing to fix. Finally, I compared it with the wooden pattern, identify it with the cheat, and finish it completely. There was still one last step to be done. Sharpening. The shape of the sword is already like the original one, but it cannot cut because it does not have a blade. I then use my cheat to carefully and deliberately attach the blade. During sharpening, it will naturally be worn down and it may lose some of its magic power, so I use all of my concentration to sharpen it. I could feel the hard edge of the blade in my hand, and I could hear the glassy clang of the blade, a different sound from when I struck it with the hammer. Okay, that's it. When I said that, the four of them, including Lida-san, cheered. Looking at the finished product once more, I can't be sure that the original shape of this sword was like this. Lida-san. Yes. It's done. Please look at it. Yes. Well then. After handing over the sword, Lida-san began to check it with a gaze that she is as if looking at each piece of tissue. I'm confident that it will be fine, but I can't help but get nervous because this is a job request. It's not Lida-san's fault, but it's because the original shape is also based on my own assumptions. If it doesn't fit, then this will be a failure in my opinion. In that case, I may have to redo it, and in some cases, I may not be able to meet the deadline. When I think about that, my body gets nervous more and more. The three girls seem to feel the same way as they stare at Lida-san intently. I appreciate the sentiment, but if you stare too much, it might make it harder for Lida-san to check it, you know. Then Lida-san gently placed the sword on the table. She finished checking it. I too stared at Lida-san. For a moment, she seemed to flinch seeing the four of us staring at her intently. But right after she regained her composure. Thank you. It's more than what I could have hoped for. She said so. Samia stands up in delight and hugs Rike and Diana. Of course, I'm happy too. However, there is one thing I was concerned about. What do you mean by more than what you have hoped for? It wasn't out of anger or sadness, it was purely a question that I wanted to ask. Chapter 92, Too much is as good as too little. Lida-san said that it's more than what she was hoping for. If you think about it normally, it should be a good thing. That's because I was able to create something better than the level that the client wanted. However, in this case, the client asked for a restoration, and she wanted it to be the same as the original. So it is questionable whether exceeding the original was a good thing. I need to be able to curb this area at a precise level. The answer to my question comes immediately from Lidi-san. Yes. My request was to restore it to its original form. Of course it is in its original form, but the amount of magical power woven into it is considerably larger than that of the original. Regarding the way on how to use it, it's best to have a lot of magical power on it, so honestly, it helps. When she said usage, does she mean as a magic battery? Well, it's true that if it breaks when you pull out more than a certain amount, it's better to have a larger margin. Anyhow, I'm relieved to know that I didn't do anything unnecessary. I don't know the original amount of magic power on it, but it must have been a good amount. I'm a little curious about what it was that caused the sword to break and run out of power. I don't think it's a good question, so I won't be asking that. However, if it breaks again, I'll fix it. By the way, about the price. That reminds me, that is necessary. I've learned a lot, so it's okay if it's cheap, but for the time being, I'll do it the usual way. If the client comes here alone, it's okay to use the price deemed by the client. So Lidi-san, please pay the amount that you think fits for it. I see. Lidi-san thinks with her hand placed on her slender chin. She has a small face and she gives off this calm impression, so that kind of gesture suits her very well. Well, I think it's also because the last person that came to my house was Helen, the very opposite of her. After thinking for a while, Lidi-san went inside the house saying, "Wait a minute. In the meantime, I hold the mithril sword that has just been restored. It's something that I realized while working. It's very light because it's mithril. If it is steel with the same weight, I would only be able to make a folding knife with metal handle or a slightly larger knife, to say the least. I stopped swinging it around because it was a customer's item. If I forged a new one, I can't swing it around as a trial slash, but this is a restored product, so I can't do that." After just a few minutes, Lidi-san returns with a small bag of cloth. Perhaps it's her wallet or bag containing her money. "Sorry I made you wait." From the bag, she took out some gold coins and an unfamiliar thin plate. There were about 5 gold coins, but the thin plate looked like a jewel if you looked closely. There are even 2 of them. I don't know the market price for it, but it must have been quite high. Normally, it would probably cost more to have something with this much magic weaved on it, but this is the limit of what I can pay you. It still seems like a lot to me. She brought in her own materials, she even taught Rike a lot and I learned a lot from her too. Right. Well, all right then. While saying that, I returned a gold coin to Lidi-san's hand. "For this 1 gold coin, can you please deliver some vegetable seeds grown in Lidi-san's village to the merchant whom you heard the location of my house? I think he'll understand if you address it to me, Izu. Of course, I'll take the amount that won't bother the people in your village. Like if you have any leftovers, you can just divide the seeds according to the season and so on." Are the vegetables in the elf village perhaps not open to the public? No, that's not the case. We usually sell them to human merchants too. But, are you really okay with this? Yes. I think you saw it when you went to the town, but this is just like dealing with that merchant. This cannot be considered as discount, but in a way, 1 gold coin will be returned to the elf village where Lidi-san lives, so for the time being, I will be satisfied with this. Well, when I talked about Helen's sword and the money I got during the Emerald House's conflict, Reich and Diana got angry and said, if you don't get the right amount, you'll be selling your skills cheaply, and that won't be of help to the other blacksmiths either. Thus I decided to refrain from directly reducing the price. Honestly, I was actually hoping to get about 3 gold coins this time as well. At the time when I got scolded, Samia didn't seem to understand it that well. That was probably because it's still a lot of money, so she didn't really feel it to be like that. Well, she's familiar with the market price for daily necessities. Lida-san seemed to be pondering about it again, but after a while, she said, all right then, I'll take your word for it. She then put the gold coin back in her bag. I could have given her 1 more gold coin as a tuition fee, but it wouldn't make sense if it's too much. With this, everything about her request has been settled for the moment. With that being the case, today is the completion day. I then start cleaning the workshop to prepare a little sumptuous meal. Chapter 93, Farewell. For dinner, I mobilized a lot of sake and meat at home and prepared it like a farewell party for Lida-san. It may be strange to call it a farewell party since she is a client, but either way, we have been living together for a while. Speaking of which, she tried to pay for her stay, but I decided to offset that with the fact that she taught Reich about magic. In this world where humans can't use magic unless they have a family name, knowledge about magical power is quite a valuable information. I'm not sure if this is enough to offset the cost, but Lida-san seems to feel that the cost for repairing the sword is not enough. It's good that we both agreed on it though. There were a lot of very interesting things this time, and to be honest, it was fun. I think it's better not to receive so many repair requests, but if there is anything else I need, I will definitely leave it to this workshop. Lida-san said so at the end of the farewell party. By all means, favor Izu's workshop. I replied to her with a smile. The next morning. Today, Lida-san was absorbing magical power from the forest. She said it was for the concealment spell she would be using on her way home. It seems that elves can't handle powerful magic, but even so, traveling alone can be dangerous. I thought Lida-san would be very skilled with a sword, but it appears that she used concealment spell to make herself invisible on the streets, and then lifted it near the town. It seems that she can't do anything more than a form of self-defense. She also said she used the same magic from the time she entered the forest until she came to our house. So the 5 of us, including Lida-san, ate breakfast together, and when Lida-san finished preparing her things for her departure, we all decided to walk her up to the entrance of the forest. This way, we would be able to reduce the consumption of her magical power as much as possible. We moved in a line with Samia in the lead, followed by me, Lida-san, Reich, and then Diana. We didn't have the cart with us today, so just in case, I brought the spear I used to kill the bear instead. Thinking about it now, it would have been better to deliver the goods today, so that I could take Lida-san to the town. I was careless. I'll do that if there's a next time. Nothing special happened until we reached the entrance of the forest. We came across birds and other small animals, but they do not do any harm to us. Since Lida-san is an elf, I was thinking that she might be having a conversation with the animals in the forest or something like that, but that's not particularly the case. They need magical power and they are good at handling it, but their basic characteristics other than their longevity are the same as humans. Thank you very much for your help. Lida-san extends her right hand. Same here. I look forward to seeing you again someday at that house. While saying that, I gently shook her hand. See you again, By the time you come back, I'll be done with my training on handling magical power. When you come next time, tell me about elf swordsmanship." The three of them also took Lidisan's right hand and bid goodbye. "Till next time." She bid goodbye to such surprising degree of volume. I did not think that Lidisans could make a voice with such a volume. We waved to each other and see her off until she went far away. "There she goes," Samia murmurs. Although she was originally a lone wolf, though she's tiger beastman, she seemed to feel a certain amount of loneliness towards those she had once got close to. "Well, if there is something she wants me to make, she will come here again." "Yeah. It seems that there are many things that only Izu can make after all." When I said that, Diana followed up. We then went back inside the forest. It took about 4 hours to get to the entrance of the forest and get back home, so we have spent most of today's time. I then decided to take a day off after having lunch. Of course, I am replanting the mint. Last night, I spoke with Lidisan. "If you want to replant it, you should grow it in a pot or something." I was told to do that, so I decided to do so. I made a hole in the bottom of a medium-sized unglazed jar that I was not using, and then I put soil and planted the rooted mint in it. I then took it out. Underneath it, I put a saucer made from the leftover wood. Since it is wood, I'll have to check it from time to time. She also said, when the elongated stems touches the ground, roots will grow from them, so please check them from time to time and cut the ones that are hanging down. I'll check the stems either before or after my evening practice. If I am going to be away from home for a long time, it may be better to move it to a window inside the house. It's a little scary to come home and find mint all over the place. I was planning to use it as a filler until I could decide what to plant in the field. However, the seeds will eventually come from Lidisan's village. I'd rather not have too much and let the mint grow in moderation. By the way, we don't have a balcony. We hang our laundry on a tall stake in the yard, with a rope tied to it. Of course, there is no roof on it. We don't have clothespins, so we hang the clothes on or through the rope. And since there is no roof, we can't do any laundry on rainy days. Well, it doesn't rain here that much though. We can dry it in the shade too, and as long as it can be dried, we can do a little laundry. Since we are inside the forest, we can cool down in the shade when the sun is strong. Even when the number of pot-grown plants increases, I can leave them there. It seems that there are quite a few benefits to making it. I think the area around the storage is the first priority, but I'll suggest to everyone to build it when that area is cleared up. After that, I spent the rest of the day tilling the soil in the courtyard so that it would not become covered with weeds again.